my family away from my Carolina home. Had dreams about the West and started to roam. 6 long months on a dust-covered trail. They say heaven's at the end, but so far it's been hell. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. We were digging and shifting from 5 to 5, selling everything we found just to stay alive. Gold flowed free like the whiskey in the bars. Sinning was the big thing, Lord, and Satan was a star. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. Dance hall girls were the evening treat. Empty cartridges and blood lined the streets. Men were shot down for the sake of having fun, or just to hear the noise of their 44 guns. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. Now my widow, she weeps by my grave. Tears flow free for her man she couldn't save. Shot down in cold blood by a gun that carried fame, all for the useless and no good, worthless claim. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. And there's fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, gold in them hills, and it's waiting for me there. Waiting for me there. Waiting for me there.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, YouTubers and friends, welcome to another episode of Tuesday Night Live. We have a return guest with us again this week, Chris. Oh, I'm gonna butcher his last name. Vo-Gus. And you all know him from Vo-Gus Prospecting, so do me a favor, don't go away, because we'll be right back. Hey YouTubers and friends, thanks for joining us for another episode of Tuesday Night Hangout Live with ToledoJess, Gano, the Treasure Vixens, and I.
The bush trim season and just kind of go into snowplow, but that's easier said than done for somebody who sits in an office and dispatches.
So in where I am right
Watch
now,
out, he's done
coming
put
into
you on.
summer.
Watch what you say. Watch what you say. He's done put you on, didn't say nothing.
Oh,
He's
trying to be
sneaky.
sneaky.
You're
What I was going to
live.
say
You're all
was
live.
the amazing thing. I got to finish this sentence, otherwise it's just not going to leave my head.
Okay.
What's amazing, Rose talking about, I can't wait for snowplow season, and I'm coming into summer where our roads turn to liquid and melt, and and what's snow?
Yeah, we're just coming into ours. We just got our first measurable snow last couple days here in Ohio. So, yay, winter's here.
Yeah.
One day,
that.
one bucket list thing in my life is to make a snowman. I'm yet to do that. One day.
I hope
One
you
day.
do it.
You don't get snow where you're at?
Oh, we do, but it's about 3.5 hours away, and it's like this big compared to.
Everybody goes takes pictures of it and stuff.
No, really, like legit. You see snow. There's a max exodus from cities and towns all across Australia. If there's snow on a nearby hill, it's like we're gonna go check out the funny, cold, frozen water.
Yeah, because I guess a trip over to the South Island to New Zealand isn't even a real short hop for you guys, is it? It's quite the
Oh
trip.
no, because it takes us 3.5 hours to drive to Melbourne, and then it takes 3 hours to fly to New Zealand. So it actually takes less time to fly there. We'll probably spend more time in the airport and security than you would flying to New Zealand. But it's the trip. The landmass here is so big and so sparsely populated that any trip takes forever. It just takes if I want to see my dad, it's almost a 4-hour drive. So
Wow.
Yeah. So let's say hi to our chat room because they're just as important as Chris.
Well, there's Nikki
Yeah.
just popped in.
Hey, Nikki.
Yeah, and you were on Nikki's Tuesday show a couple
I
weeks
was.
ago.
Right.
I was. That was a good show. I actually really enjoyed that. She opened my eyes to what the possibilities were for streaming on Facebook. I was like, oh my god, this is awesome.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, huge.
I see Snorkel Pirates is in there. Miss Laurel.
You're
Ron F, what's up?
Yeah, what up, Ron F?
Flower
Yeah,
Gold
there.
Wizards in the house.
Oh, Flower
Radio
Gold Wizards.
time.
Man,
Hippie
Flower Gold, you're on my
Explorer.
channel all the time.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Jason the Mason, good guy.
Jason
There's
in
Otis.
Colorado.
Otis.
Hey, what's up, Otis?
Hey, Victoria from Victoria's Oregon or Bust. What's going on, girl?
Vicky.
Vicky, Ryan.
I did the smart thing and actually pulled up the chat so I can read it too. Hey,
Well,
there we
yes,
go.
absolutely.
JS
How are you?
Thunder Bay, Canada, welcome. And
Oh.
we had a new member join us tonight from Wisconsin. Charles Mueller, welcome to the Flash.
Welcome,
Band.
Charles.
Yes, welcome.
Charles is from my channel, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah,
right
cool.
on,
I've seen him
right
pop
on.
up a whole heap.
Excellent. Well,
Hey, Vo-Gus
glad you
Prospecting's
have
here.
we're
Joseph.
hey.
Rickner. How are you?
Long time no see there, Vo-Gus.
Squeeze it. Little box, but we did it.
Ah, Matty Hand. Welcome, bro.
Beefy Prepper, the Gold Digger.
Yeah.
Welcome. Moto
Hey, Al
Moto.
Cooper.
What's up, Moto?
Raven and Skipper Rock, good to see
Raven,
you.
haven't seen
Skipper
him.
Rock.
Man, we got heaps of people here.
Yeah, must be you.
Nah, they've all got to be coming for Rose. You don't want to look at me. She's a draw card. You're like, ah, look at this.
Right.
Oh, I hate to take this off our guest, but Rose.
Oh, there's Grotty.
I'm very proud of you in your last live stream, girl. You and
Hey, you did
Angela
good.
had many, I saw 89 people in there at one time that I saw, and doing a good job.
Thank you
Nice.
very much.
That's
Oh, you
awesome.
know, hey, before I forget, Rose, when on your last video, you were, or was it the live stream? We're talking about wanting to go gems and stuff, right?
Hmm?
Do you know that on the Illinois and is it Arkansas border, right? Don't you guys butt up against Arkansas?
Huh?
Yeah, on the border, there's a mine there where you can find thunder eggs.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I've even
Uh,
Googled areas like maybe it's because I stuck with Illinois as the search
right.
and didn't really have a lot of luck. But that's not. I mean, heck yeah.
I tell you who to look up is the oh
I'm
you
up
know
for
who
an
I'm talking
adventure.
about, that guy.
Dynamite and Ivan.
No, not him. The crystal collector.
Oh yeah. He goes all
Go check
over.
out his videos. One of his videos, he talks about a big outing there at Thunder Egg outing,
Okay.
and cracking open big monster, and that's what they find there. It's a pay to dig area. So there's another spot for you to look.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Jess. I appreciate it.
Sounds like a Flash fam fun day.
We
Heck
need to
yeah.
get that way anyway.
That's kind of why I look at that.
That's not that far away.
No,
Yeah, that's really it's a hop, skip, and a jump for
Right.
just about everybody.
Right.
Good meetup we could even get some people from the south to come on up. You know what I'm saying? Do a big
Ooh.
thing. Yeah,
Go Thunder Egg hunting.
I'm in.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Pick up some Pokemon.
So, have at it, Rose.
Oh, okay, guys.
So remember, we lumped you with the responsibility.
Well, yeah, and you at least piqued my interest because in the pre-show we were talking about pans that you could use, and Jess and I have talked in the past about how, with my limited experience, I was interested in trying out the Gold Claw, but you recommended a different pan. I can't remember the name, but I'd like to know why.
Okay. All right. So I have been in the position where, how should we start? Story time. Start from the beginning, Chris. That's a good idea. Okay, first things first. I was taught by a guy who immigrated to Australia purely to hunt gold. That's why he came here. So he came over, he was an engineer, a software engineer, and a mechanical engineer. He worked for big tech firms and whatnot all through like the 80s and the 90s and whatnot. And in that time that he was doing that, he used it to fund buying a house in El Dorado. Now, El Dorado is an incredibly rich alluvial gold stream here in Australia. So it's called Reedy Creek, the town's El Dorado. Now, this guy taught me pretty much everything I know, and he spent a lot of time with me just going. He's an eccentric type too, right? So it took a lot of deciphering for what he was telling me, but his knowledge was born of a lifetime of gold prospecting. So it was his whole dream. It's his passion, right? I have seen him go to the creek with nothing but a normal gold pan, a shovel, and a snuffer bottle, and come back with an ounce from these streams. Now, most people are flat out getting a couple of grams with a high banker in that creek, and he knows where it is. He understands it, and he can do that with a pan. Like, it's unreal. What he taught me was fundamentally the basics of gold pans. I'm trying to get the words right here. A gold pan should be kept really simple. It doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't, right? Because you're relying on two things, which is stratification and density of your material. So stratification is the process of leveling all the materials into their various weights or their various densities, and you're relying on the fact that gold and gems are the two heaviest things in your pan, and they should go to the bottom unless you get a nail or a bit of mercury or whatever. Now, through that, I've always viewed any piece of equipment that I use, whether it be a sluice or a pan, with that outlook. Does it stratify, or does it allow for stratification properly? And will it retain those heavy materials? So how does it capture? So what is the trick for it to stop that gold from exiting your pan and going back into the stream? A regular gold pan that we think's regular is the flat bottom pan. So Garrett, Mine Lab, the cheap black plastic pans you can get, they're all exactly the same design with slight variations, right? They're flat bottoms. They've got a angled wall and some kind of riffle system on it. Those pans are only used in North America, England, and Australia. And now they've started somewhat to permeate into other countries to varying degrees. But what we're not taught in the West is that most other countries use a type of pan called a Betea pan. So it's Betea. That's how it's spelled, Betea pan. Those pans are used the world round. Every country that's got gold in it outside of those sort of Western countries uses these pans, and they're old. They're like 4,000 years old. They've found these gold pans back with the Mayas and stuff. Now, these pans are really, really, really simple. The principle remains the same. It allows for easy stratification because they're big, right? They're probably 2.5 foot wide, but they've got a really shallow curve that comes to a point. And the idea for the stratification is that all the gold sinks to this cone point at the bottom. Now, it actually inadvertently takes a principle from industrial mining, which is friction. So one of the big things that keeps gold in your pan and in a sluice box, especially in industrial mining, is friction. Gold is often much smaller than the heavies that come along with it, like ironstone, black sand, that sort of stuff. That black sand and ironstone is heavy and dense and causes a heap of friction, but it's lighter than gold. So it actually sits on top of the gold in the pan. On a flat bottom pan, you don't have enough heavies to cover the gold. So what happens is any gold that's outside of those collections of heavy material has the ability to ride on the lights and fall out of your pan. Anything that's underneath that heavy, dense material has so much friction and weight on top of it, it can't move. So you're not going to lose it. The Betea pan concentrates it in a point. So it always has heavy, dense pieces of material on top of it, and it doesn't allow for that gold to come up through and out of your pan. It physically can't do it because it's got all this weight on top of it. Now, those pans were the Betea pan was actually one of the very first gold pans used in the 49 gold rush in California, and they've got it in a museum because you can make them out of almost anything. It doesn't matter as long as you can make a cone. So you can literally fold a piece of paper into a cone. As long as it was like coated in wax or something, you could probably use it as one of these pans. They're simple in their method. You're just using centrifugal force to blow off the lights. So you shake it side to side, everything settles to the bottom, and then you gently start swirling it in a circle. And as you swirl it in a circle, all the material gains momentum and the lights are picked up and blown out of the pan. All the heavies, again, because of that weight and that friction, are stuck down the bottom. They physically cannot leave that pan. It's really hard to blow gold out of. So you'll spin it around. When you stop, all that you'll be left with in the bottom is maybe a teaspoon of heavy, dense material and all of your gold. And you tip it into a bucket and take it home and process it with just a normal little flat bottom pan. Those pans are good. If I had my time again, I would not use I wouldn't have learned originally on a regular pan, and I never would have bought a river sluice because they are faster. I can move about 7 liters of dirt in under 2 minutes with one of those pans. So that's almost an entire bucket of dirt in one hit. It's so much faster than river sluicing. Now, that's not to say that other pans don't have their place. So the Betea pans come in varying sizes, and you need to pick a size that you can physically handle because of the weight, right? So once it's in the water, it's fine. The pan takes most of the weight for you by floating in the water, but carrying it to the creek or the river is where the issue will come if you've got a big pan. So you need to have you need to pick the right size to fit your physical capabilities. And that's where other pans come in handy. So a regular Garrett flat bottom pan or a Minelab pan, they have their places for sure. The other thing to keep in mind is pans that have reinvented the wheel. So now we're going to get really specific here, and I have to say this straight up. I am not having a go at any of these pans, but it's my belief system that things should always be kept simple, because simple products have far less to go wrong with them, and usually the learning curve isn't as steep. So the potato pan, there's 2 steps: shake side to side to stratify, put it under the water, and spin it in circles till all the dirt's gone. That's it. 2 steps. You don't have to do anything else. Almost every other pan has multiple stages. So with your regular flat bottom pans, you'll shake side to side, you'll tip it forward, and then you'll wash a little bit off the top, and then you'll have to put it back down, shake it side to side, stratify again. And the reason we have to do that tilt, remove material, stratify, tilt, remove material, stratify process again and again and again is because of those heavies I was talking about earlier. You're trying to get all the gold under the heavies. That's what you're actually trying to do, but it's not easy to do that. So that process slows you down. That tilt, stratify, tilt, stratify, tilt, stratify. Every single time, if you don't do that, you're going to lose gold. You're going to lose a significant proportion of your gold. Then you've got pans like the Gold Claw. Now, the Gold Claw is really good for people who are just starting out and they want to have a go at finding a bit of gold, and they don't need to think about it too much, but they do have a lot of loss. Now, I have run the loss tests, and I have run, I've talked to Clint about his products, and I've talked to other YouTubers who use their products. We came to the conclusion that the Gold Claw suits people who, you might have a friend out on the creek with you this day, and you want them to be able to find some gold and have some fun. They've never done it before. Whack a Gold Claw in their hand. They are not going to stuff it up. It's really simple to wrap your head around, even though there are more steps to it. It's easy to get. It's a lot easier than learning how to pan with a flat bottom pan. Or it's good for people who might have physical limitations or space limitations, things like that, where you need to fit a small compact pan into a backpack to go on a long hike, and you're doing other things. Maybe you're traveling around the country and you don't have enough room in your car or your truck for like a full-size kit. You could put a Gold Claw in it. If you've got shoulder problems, that sort of stuff, these sort of pans are good. But the claim, and this is why, again, I think the potato pan is so good, the claim that it's faster than a regular pan, I've personally found not to be true. I can pan faster with a flat bottom pan than I can with the Gold Claw pan in terms of volume. So it's always about volume. Those pans hold such a little amount of dirt, it's hard to actually get a really good, accurate idea of what kind of gold is in the ground itself. So I'd be having to do 2 to 3 pans in a Gold Claw just to get the equivalent of like 1 Garrett pan. And then in the potato pan, that if I could do like 2 Garrett pans in that 1 potato pan and really know what's going on, like what heavies are in there, what gems are in there, what kind of gold's in there. And then it comes back full circle. So whilst it's easy to whack one of those Gold Claws in someone's hand and say, hey, you've never done this before, but I want you to have a crack at it, I want you to have a go, and I want you to have a feel. It's just as easy to whack a potato pan in their hand and say, hey, you're going to get a huge amount of gold. All you got to do is spin this thing in circles. That's it. So I recommend the potato pan for anyone who's just starting out. And this comes with a little disclaimer, provided you have enough water, because they do need a fair amount of water to be able to submerge and spin. Like at the moment in summer, I've had to go back to a flat bottom pan because of that. Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question.
I got a great picture of it, although it's funny, I almost thought about Googling it to look at it, because I wonder if what I've built up in my mind even resembles what you're talking about. But I'll
do it, Google it. Yeah. No, you should, because it's so different for us in the West to wrap our heads around this piece of technology. Like I've akined it to a flat bottom pan, so a Garrett Super Sluice. A Garrett Super Sluice is the equivalent of a bike with training wheels on it compared to the potato pan, because that's what the riffles are there for, right? The riffles are there for us to catch the gold and concentrate those heavies and put the gold underneath those heavies, right? That's what the riffles are there for. But the potato pan says you don't need riffles. We're just going to put it at the bottom of the pan.
Yeah.
That's it, and it can't go anywhere.
That does seem very, very helpful. So I'm just going to move us into the next question, unless anybody else wanted to chime in.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm just going to bring up with what we were talking about in the beginning of the chat. Let's go back to the basics. Let's go back to when you started. Did you start YouTube first or Facebook first?
Yes, I've had a long, illustrious career on social media.
Yeah.
Before this, I was an archery coach. So I was teaching, I had my own range. I was doing corporate gigs. So we'd take groups, like we had the Australian Army, we had big banking corporations here in Australia, we had small businesses from various towns come to my range for team building days. So that was our primary focus for business, but my passion was teaching athletes, and I was teaching primarily younger athletes, so sort of in their mid-teens to late teens, on getting better at their craft, so we could take it to state, national, and international levels. And what I found was a big passion for spreading that teaching, and social media was the way to do it. So we created a Facebook page and a YouTube channel for the archery, and it's all still up, but good luck finding it. We're going to leave that as a little treasure hunt.
I found it.
Oh, don't you dare share that, Ed. I'll come over there. I'll give you a spanking, I'll tell you what.
Oh boy.
But so those videos are embarrassing, right? Because it was my first saute into
For sure.
into doing it, and that was sort of back towards 2010, in that area. And I ended up running a digital magazine for archery, created it, built that up, sold that as a business. And then what happened was I probably a separate question, but basically I had developed pretty severe PTSD symptoms at the end of 2016. And I had, after my PTSD symptoms got too much, I ended up selling the range, because what I didn't want was to become a danger to people in terms of taking a school group in and just not being attentive, or something similar to that, and not being able to put 110% in. So I sold the range, I sold the business, sold the magazine, and I was just at a really low point, right? Because by this stage I'd like lost my business, my house, my wife, like just a whole lot. It had all gone pear-shaped. And that's what we were talking about in the pre-show, which was Grizzly ended up saving my life from suicide at that point. And after he did that, it was a few months later that I had $300 in my bank account, and I'd always sort of been involved in a level of filmmaking and production and creativity. I wasn't very good at it because I'd never really focused on it. It had always been, for me, it had always been archery and that sort of stuff. And so I walked into the shop one day, and there was a GoPro on the shelf that they were getting rid of, and it was on sale for like $270 or something. And I remember looking at it, and I was just like, it's my last $300. Fuck it, I'm buying it. Like, I'm doing this. So I bought it, and I didn't know what I was going to film. I had no idea what I was going to film. And at the start, I was going around and filming hiking trips that I was doing to try and get back into the bush. And I was filming some of the other stuff like building bows and arrows. And I was filming just sort of more vlog style stuff. So geocaching and stuff. I had no idea what I was doing. In the back of my head, I was like, oh, it'd be cool to put these on YouTube. So started a channel, which was originally called Backcountry Trekking. I was putting these camping videos and stuff up on them. And that's when the guy that taught me about gold prospecting sort of intervened, and he took me out of I was at the time I was sleeping on the floor of an abandoned building, and he took me out of there, and he showed me how to gold prospect. And I thought, well, I said to him, this is fantastic. Like, you're literally digging money out of the ground, and as someone who's sleeping on a floor of an abandoned building, that's pretty that's pretty sweet, right? Like,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
so I started filming my gold prospecting adventures, and at the start I had no idea what I was doing, right? Like, so Derek had shown me he'd shown me what to do, and my understanding at the time, you got to remember, I'm still in the depths of PTSD, like the worst possible emotions every day, and it was really hard to even get up out of bed to have breakfast, yet alone think about how to find gold, right? It seemed like a very big jump and a big learning curve. And so when I started filming these videos and putting them up on my channel and just being like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing, I started joining a few Facebook groups about gold prospecting, and there was no answers out there. Like, you would Google something like how to find gold, and people would be like, check on the inside bend. So you go to an inside bend, you dig, and you wouldn't find anything. And you're like, what? Like, what's going on? Like, everyone's telling me to do this, and it's not working. So there was no answers for things that I wanted answers to. And I think this came back to my archery coaching, which was I was used to conveying very complex information to people in a way that they could understand. And we're not just talking one person that I'm coaching, we're talking about 600 a week, 700 people a week for school groups and all that sort of stuff. And I've got to come up with a method of teaching people how to do it so they understand it. And there's a big difference between knowledge and understanding. It's something that gets glossed over a lot. So, you can know something, but not understand it whatsoever. So talking to you, Rose, and saying something like a pan stratification, friction, right? Like, it's probably all just goes straight over your head. But once you start understanding some of those principles, it clicks. And when it clicks, it makes more sense. So that's what I was looking for online. And there wasn't anything. There was nothing that made me click. So I just started filming me answering my own questions. I was like, well, where's the bloody gold? So I started digging everywhere, and I started putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Like, oh, I found gold here. Why did I find gold here, but I didn't find it over there? Oh, is there anything else in the environment that was going on? Now, where's the gold coming from? How do I find bigger pieces of gold? Where should I be looking for research? And it took years, but filming that adventure, filming those years of research, filming those years of understanding and putting it on YouTube, people clicked with it. I think that it was also what they were looking for. They weren't looking for knowledge, they were looking for understanding. And because I was hunting for that same sort of thing, people clicked into it and took that on board. And
like you said, easy to understand. Explanations for people who literally have no idea what they're doing.
Well, yeah, exactly. You know what really annoys me is we got books in Australia by an author called Doug Stone. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard of him in the States, but Doug Stone's a pretty famous prospector here in Australia, and he's written a whole heap of books on how to find gold. But you read his books, and there's no information in them. There's very little information in them. There's a lot of big words. There's some maps which look pretty cool.
Yeah. I like your book.
Yeah, well, I wrote that book with that in mind, right? I was like, if I'd been given this day one, if I'd been given a guide day one, what would I really want to know? And the concept for me was put the knowledge that people need to know that they can tuck in their backpack, and in 5 seconds flip to the right page, read it, and be like, I should check there in the stream. I've got it. I understand now. And that conveyance of information, that sharing of information is so important, right? So like Doug Stone's books, man, they look cool. They're flashy. The maps are sweet. If you understand geological terms, they're brilliant, right?
Right.
But most people don't know what an imbricated stream bed is. Do you know what an imbricated stream bed is?
No.
Jeff Williams.
Yeah, exactly. No, but that's exactly right. So there's other YouTubers as well. Like I love Ask Jeff Williams in terms of his geological knowledge. Sitting down and watching those things is unreal. But I've also had the benefit now of years and years and years of practice
Right.
of learning those terms and starting to understand them. So I can watch his videos and extract as much information out of them as possible. But most people sitting down who are just getting into it, or maybe you've been doing it for a couple of years, aren't going to have the foggiest clue what the difference between like hematite and chalcopyrite is.
Yeah.
No idea. But if
Right.
you come up to someone and you say, dig in the white, not the red, it makes a lot more sense
What
all
do
of
you
a
mean?
sudden.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's sort of knowledge I try and share. Like I cop hell for it online because people will come in and I had this guy saying, I teach people bad geology. And I said, I've never taught geology. I've just taught people how to find gold. And there's a
Yeah.
vast difference between that.
Yeah.
I'm not into minerals. I'm not. I don't care if it's chalcopyrite or, some other kind of oxidized layer. I don't care. It doesn't make a difference to me. I just want to know where the gold is. And the way we do that is experimenting and then sharing that knowledge. So, hey, look, we're testing here, here, here. These are the results from those three. This is what we can summarize from those three tests. You go out and try it.
And then
And that,
so that opens up the opportunity then. So if you want to learn further about the other things, if you want, it opens up the doors for you to choose where you want to go on what you're going to learn.
100%. And like I've got a good friend of mine who was a subscriber. He kept emailing me until I met him, and he's a career geologist. So his job was exploration geology. He traveled the world. He lived in South Africa, in Germany, in Australia. He established 4 gold mines and 2 uranium mines, industrial scale. We're talking 16 million ounces or something of gold his 4 gold mines have produced so far. And he looked at me one day on the creek and he goes, I've learned more about finding gold in the last 6 months with you than I ever did in my career. Because we always looked at it from an academic standpoint and
Right.
never just using this really fundamental, systematic, methodical approach to testing and understanding. And then, if you want to learn more about geology, if you want to learn more about that sort of stuff, you can, by all means, do it. And it will help you.
Into it. Yeah. So that's,
Yeah.
mean, when you give that option, meeting these guys here in Flash in Your Pan, it started off with just panning for gold, which then led to, well, maybe you can find a diamond in there. Maybe you can find a ruby in there. And then that led into, learning about pay dirt, and pay dirt have, gemstones and so on and so forth. So when you keep it fun and light for somebody who's looking for the first time or trying to figure things out for the first time, you really do have to keep it simple, because the more overwhelming it gets, the more anxiety you get, and then you're like, oh, I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to bother.
100%. That's exactly right.
K-I-S-S. K-I-S-S.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing, right? This comes from my archery coaching, which was that, and this actually probably goes back to the pans as well. So 2 things on this. The first thing is that most people that came to my range just wanted to have a little bit of fun. They wanted to come in with Jill and Bob, their 2 10-year-old kids, and the mum and the dad had been out at a winery and they just wanted to spend an hour doing something fun. And so I put a bow in their hands. I taught them a very simple, basic method of shooting a bow and arrow that would make sure that they hit the target 80-90% of the time. Some of them would even go in the middle, and they had a really, really good time. Same goes for gold prospecting. I teach a method that will put you onto the gold. And for most people, that's enough. If you can walk away with half a gram, that's a great day for some people. A gram, that's a fantastic day for some people. Especially now with the laws the way they are and limited equipment. If you're pulling those sort of numbers with a pan or a stream sluice, then you're doing really good. In Australia, we can't do things like dredging. So some people don't understand, especially in the States and Canada and whatnot, where they can do it, that, I find a gram in a day from high banking and I've only moved a meter of dirt. They're like, that's terrible. It's like, well, I don't have a 6-inch dredge sucking up 7-8 meters of dirt, do I? I'm shoveling this by hand. So that methodology of me teaching them something very simple to get on the gold, find it and enjoy it is great. If they want to take that further and look at it from a point of view of industrial mining or small scale mining that they want to get into, they can do that because the same principles apply, but it's just thinking in bigger numbers and bigger pieces of machinery. On the equipment side of it, that KISS principle, that the archery principle that I talked about, gear should always be simple. I was teaching people that were coming in with $3,500 bows and $1,000 sets of arrows and like just ridiculous amounts of money spent on this equipment that was super fancy. And if you put that equipment in the hands of an Olympian, oh, beautiful, right? But you're an amateur archer that can't draw the bowstring back properly yet, and I need to teach you that, and you can't handle this piece of equipment. We need to put you onto something simple. We need to put you on something that has always worked since like 1500. This thing has worked. Like, yeah, like, so we are, it's the same thing with gold pans and whatnot. You see all these different types of pans and all these ideas and stuff, and if they just keep it simple, you'll learn better. You'll learn better. You'll learn to appreciate how simple finding gold actually is, or recovering it, should I say, in the pan. It's very simple. It takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of determination, and if you're shown the right way, then no issues whatsoever.
So Mark Miller, we had somebody ask a question here. Mark Miller, and I'm gonna rephrase it just a little bit. Given that you had no laws or restrictions, what would your favorite equipment, what would your favorite way to mine, sleuth, high bank, pan, what would you choose if you had any option in the world?
Ooh.
35-pound gold magnet. Just bring in the creek.
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting? It's not the quantity of gold that I find that interests me. It's the warm fuzzy feeling I get after a day out that has been good. And sometimes those good days mean that I might get a 0.1, and sometimes those good days might mean I get 4 or 5 grams.
Right.
So the method isn't as important. I think I'm more interested, if I could use any method, I would take a time machine back to like 1851, before the gold rush here where I am, and I would go to some of the creeks I work currently, and I would use a high banker, and I would do it purely to actually see if some of my theories are right, not for the quantity of gold. If that was I love high banking. I love the process of feeding dirt through a high banker and seeing it work and getting it right and tuning it in and all that. It's just like this little steam engine I get to tweak and fiddle with. So that's what I would love to do, because I've got so many theories regarding virgin ground and pockets of virgin ground that I've found and whatnot, and I just want to know some of the answers to the questions I have regarding it. And the best way I could do that would be to run a couple of meters of it through my high banker, and yeah, that's it. That's what I'd do. See, I think a lot of people will go for like, oh, it's illegal to dredge in Australia, so I would go dredging, or it's illegal to stream sluice in Canada, so I would use a stream sluice. But just because it's illegal, I don't think would bring me joy. I think it would be, I think it'd be more about getting that knowledge that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. So
I like the idea of a time machine.
yeah.
That's a good piece of equipment.
I like it.
Hey, you said any piece of equipment, right?
Yeah.
Nikki said something. There was a question in chat about a drop bear, but I'm not seeing it, Nikki. They
Your drop bear.
didn't tag me in it. So
I'm looking for this drop gear question. I just put up a warning thing in my latest video about drop gear.
Yeah, I saw
We've had
that.
a pretty full on season out here.
And I saw you broke out the old school rocker box again.
Yeah, boy.
I think I mentioned on your video 2-3 years ago about, oh, I'm gonna do that project in my shed. I
Yep.
still want to, but I have yet done it.
It's look, it's not up to me to remind you every 5 or 10 years. You can do it in your own time. It's all right.
What? That's funny.
So, let's talk about a pet peeve. Do you have anything that drives you crazy? Whether it
Oh, yeah.
be people asking questions on your show or using pieces of equipment wrong and you want to correct them.
Again, this comes back to the archery coaching stuff. I have never seen someone use a piece of equipment and thought, geez, I wish I could fix that. I understand that everyone's at where they're at when it comes to using equipment. What we were talking about earlier with Jess, he said that he believes that all pieces of equipment have a learning curve, and it's about how you use that tool, right? It's not the piece of equipment necessarily. I say that with an asterisk because I know there are some good pieces of gold prospecting equipment that are not worth the the money or the time in using. But yeah, you should never, don't compare yourself to where others are at, because we're all on a different timeline. And as long as you're always progressing forward with the idea of improving your technique and improving how you use that piece of equipment, you'll do fine. Don't worry about where you're up to at that stage. Just go with it. Keep working on it. Stay humble and move forward, and you'll be wherever you want to be soon enough. You don't have to you don't have to compare yourself up or down to someone else. It's a stupid way of looking at it, and it will only cause you misery.
Well said, for sure.
But the pet peeve in terms of comments, oh man, so many. So many. I think the biggest one that gets to me all the time is about money, right? None of us, right, are out here getting rich off amateur gold mining.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a small scale miner, man. I'm a micro miner.
Yeah.
That majors in prospecting, which is looking for gold. I've found deposits that are really rich. I have found, I know they are. You can work this off really basic maths, even just without looking at any mining reports, looking at anything else like that. Just the TV show Gold Rush. Parker says he's running 600 meters of dirt an hour through his sluices. And when he shuts down for an hour, it costs him about 2 ounces, right? That's what they say. So we know the maths for how much they're getting per meter, and it works out to be like $8 a meter is what they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm working ground with my high banker that's about $150 to $200 a meter. So it's super rich, but you can't put an industrial mine there because they're wildlife areas, right? And they're areas that are now protected because they don't want the environment completely decimated by a big industrial mine. You can't put mining leases on them. You can't do anything like that. All you can do is go there with a pan and a high banker, and you can move a meter of dirt a day, and that's it. That's all you're allowed to do. Yep. So what gets me is when people write, what gets me is people come on and go, 2 guys, 5 hours work, and you only made $150. Hardly seems worth it.
Yeah, if you think about it monetarily wise, you spent 5 times that just getting there.
Mm-hmm.
I say it's a hobby that offers cash back. So it's like going to the shops and buying something that gives you $50 back. So I go to the creek and I live close to the goldfield, so I might spend $5 on petrol to get to drive there, and I might spend $1.50 on petrol for my pump, and let's say there's $10 worth of wear on all my gear, and then I might spend another $20 on food and drink for the day, and I'm down the whole $60, $70, right? And I dig $40 of gold out of the ground. Winner, right? I just made $40 back. I just made 60% of my money back, like that, right?
But
and
the real gold is the company you may be with. being
Oh,
out
yeah.
in the bush,
Today, yeah.
being on the river,
Which is
finding
exactly
something that creation put there and no one has seen it yet but you.
That's exactly right. That's what gets to me. That's the biggest one that annoys me so deeply, and I don't know why. It's just because maybe it's because of what I explained before. How I got into this was recovering through PTSD, and so for me, the value of it, like a big trigger for me is town noise. So cars, traffic lights, especially like kids being loud, things like that. That sort of noise for me is really quite invasive. But the bush isn't. I can be out there and have cockatoos and magpies and flies and snakes and all the other bullcrap that comes along with this Australian bush. And for me, that's peaceful. That's very relaxing. And so my value, that's like if we want to talk money, that's like going and spending $150 on a therapist when I could just go to the bush and do that and chill out for 5 hours and come back in the next 3 days. I'm good. I feel nice. I've been out in the bush. I've been having a good time. I went and found some gold. I got some exercise. I socialized. I did everything you meant to do to recover from things like depression, PTSD, anxiety, and it didn't cost me anything. Like, if anything, it paid me.
I'll take a
You
creek
say
over a shrink
$460
any
bucks. You save $460 by not going to a therapist for 5 hours.
That's
That's
right.
it, right?
Creek therapy. Creek therapy.
Yeah, creek therapy. And so
Therapy.
that's the thing. That's my number one pet peeve. The people that can only see. I heard this great quote, which is people who only a great quote that I can't remember. It was people who put a price on everything value nothing.
Right.
And that spoke to me deeply, right? And it's not true for everything. Obviously, money means stuff. Money means a level of freedom and security and safety and all that sort of stuff that comes into it. But that's not what we're talking about.
No, you're talking about when money outweighs anything else, the value of anything else, when money outweighs life, when money outweighs your health, any of those things, that's what you're talking about.
The lust
on
for money.
That is on the money. I've got to address this right now, right? That right there is on the money. That I'm fighting so hard right now to get any kind of recognition from any kind of politician to get 1080 banned from Australia. It's banned the world round except for Australia and New Zealand. Like, there's two backwards countries using this bloody toxin, right? And you know why it's still here? Because they're dropping millions of dollars into lobbyists to keep it in. But when all the evidence, every single bit of evidence points to the fact that it is the most inhumane, ineffective thing that has ever been used for pest control within Australia, right? There's heaps of evidence for it. And what it cost was my PTSD dog, service dog. It cost me him. So the only reason we're talking is because he saved me. And people value worthless pieces of paper over his life. And that means that they value their money over my life. And if they value money over my life, then all the work that I've done advocating PTSD and mental health awareness and mental illness awareness and support programs and all the fundraising that I've done and all the people I've taken out to the creek and the people I spent staying up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, texting back and forth who I've never met because they were going to go commit suicide, they don't value their lives. They value their money over it. That means that they're putting that ahead of us. And that's super important. I think maybe you just unlocked why I hate that comment so much. Why anyone who relates like what I dig out of the ground.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. About our experiences on that. I
just saw the chat thing about the postcode for the petition. If you want to use the petition postcode, it's 3690. And if you want to put some variation in there, 3691 and 3689. So one either side.
3690.
Yeah, that's the one. But yeah, like seriously, that petition, I got in a week, I have been the only person to get a response from a government official, like I got about 1080.
Look,
Like no one's getting responses from these people. Like I've been talking to all the activist groups, all the pages and everything else. No one's got it. And the only reason I got a response is because hundreds of people, subscribers, bombarded them with emails. And that was it. And we need to keep doing it. We need to keep
Right.
doing it until it actually happens. Like
let me ask you this. Let me ask you so that myself and probably some of the people watching and listening, what is the poison that you're talking about, and what are they using it for?
Thank you.
Okay.
And why aren't they using anything else?
Okay, well, this is a really, really, really good question. 1080 is basically a salt that turns into a toxin in the bloodstream. So it turns from what it is chemically outside of the body into something completely different inside the body. It occurs naturally in some plants in Australia. So there is a level of tolerance to some birds, some mammals, some lizards or reptiles to the toxin in its natural levels because of this plant. So when it was conceived, they thought that by putting it into baits, that it would have minimal effect on native species, and therefore it would only kill non-native species. And Australia has a big problem with feral cats, feral dogs, foxes especially. Foxes and cats are the two big ones. Goats, pigs, and deer. They have decimated this land, right, in a big way. None of those creatures are native to Australia at all. And they also have no natural predators. So there's a problem, right? And rabbits.
Well, actually, they do have a natural predator, a human being with a gun.
Yeah,
but...
so we're going to get to that, right? We're going to get to that. So that's what this is what that toxin does. The idea behind it. Natives have immunity. Non-natives don't have immunity. We put the toxin in those environments. The non-natives take it. The non-natives die. Sounds good in theory, like everything, like communism. It all works on paper.
It's all good on paper, right?
Yeah. So then it comes time to implement it, and what they do is that they either make baits themselves, like in a factory, that smell like meat, and the toxin itself has no smell and no odor, no way of detecting it for the animal. So they have these commercially made baits, or you can buy it in basically a liquid form and inject it into something for it to take. So you could, if you want to kill rabbits, you inject it into carrots and peas and lettuce and all that sort of stuff. Do you want to kill dogs or cats, you put it in meat. When you do this, they then put the bait sites out and the animals take it. It takes 30 to 90 minutes to kick in. So they'll eat it. 90 minutes later, they'll start showing first symptoms, and it can take them 8 to 24 hours to die. Now, when I say 8 to 24 hours to die, when Grizzly's symptoms kicked in, he sprayed vomit, shit, and blood all over my car, patio, lawn, all of which is toxic. So I have to get rid of that. That can keep killing. It doesn't, once it's turned into this compound in the blood, it doesn't go away. It stays there until it is diluted away. So 8 hours of that, sieging, 42-degree temperature in the body, convulsing, can't breathe, can breathe, can't breathe, can breathe. Minimum sort of 8 hours is what you're looking at for the animal to die like that. In the meantime, they become super aggressive. So they have sort of semi-lucid moments where they will try and get up and do stuff. So I had to stop Grizzly from biting me and the other dogs and Zoe and everything else, because that's what he was going through. Every animal goes through this that has it, every single one. Doesn't matter what species, they all go through it. So it's one of the most horrific things I have ever seen in my life. I spent 15, I was an archery coach and a hunter. So I stopped hunting 4 years ago when I got really bad PTSD, when the symptoms got too much, because I had to take a step back from killing. Like that was just my own personal choice, right? So I was like, I used to hunt for my own meat. I used to butcher deer. I did all that sort of stuff. But I took a step back because too much pain and suffering was already going on within me, and I didn't want to be part of doing more of that to animals. But before that, I spent most of my life hunting. Now, that gives me a very unique insight into this, right? Because I know and fully understand what goes into pest management. I shot hundreds of foxes and rabbits and deer and everything off farms to protect crops and livestock every single year. That was part of our job doing that. Now, the problem that I have with this from a purely ethical standpoint is that I know that a half a cent 22 bullet is going to do a better job than any poison you put out there because it's not targeted, right? Poisons aren't targeted. You can't promise me that if I put a bait out that a fox is going to take it or a goanna is going to take it. And whilst animals have a level of immunity in Australia to natural levels of this toxin, right? These are synthetic baits that are designed to kill. They are designed. Grizzly had twice the lethal dose in his blood system that we got back from these toxins.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, because in nature, there's a finite quantity of that in the plants or wherever.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
When you set it out as bait, you probably do 200 times the strength that you need. So my question was going to be, is it also killing the native animals?
Yeah, it is. That's the thing. It is. And
that's wrong. I mean,
well, here's the thing. There's two parts. There's part one is that we need to deal with conservation, and part two, we need to deal with primary industry. Conservation, you cannot tell me that putting poison into state and national parks has anything to do with conservation. State and national parks are set aside for Australians and the tourists from around the world that come here to visit natural habitats to see what Australia is about, right? Automatically, that's unsafe. You can't take your dog anywhere in Queensland or WA during spring or summer because they bait. They put thousands of baits everywhere. These baits, absolutely everywhere. It kills everything. And you can see it. You go into state forest that has these 1080 baits and there's no birds, there's no lizards, there's no insects. They've got reports of these baits killing insects within 30 centimeters of the bait.
Wow.
So they don't even have to touch it. Right? It's insane.
You said that it's still active even when the animal is when the fluids have been escaped. So I'm thinking that it's still active even when the animal is dead.
Yep, 100%. So there's
any carrion eating animals.
The dead animals.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, it just keeps going. So right. We've complained about the problem. We understand that it's inhumane. We understand that it's ineffective. It's hitting wrong target species. And there's no numbers because of the way it kills. There's no numbers on how many foxes and cats it's actually killing. So it's not like the Sporting Shooters Association of Australia that have records of how many foxes are taken by their members. They can't do it because the foxes go back to their dens or they end up in a hole or whatever, right?
Right. It's a difference between counting the mice that you've trapped in your traps at home and not knowing how many you've actually killed using poisons because they've strayed off and died somewhere else. You can smell him, but you don't know where he's at.
And you don't know how many or anything like that. So,
how many. Exactly.
This is what this petition's for, right? Like on my page, you go to the petition post, it's a generic email, but if you type your own part at the top about why you think it should be banned and all that sort of stuff, they have to consider it as an individual protest and not part of a collective whole. And that's what's really important. Now, if you've made it this far in the stream, guys, and we haven't turned everyone off watching.
What are the numbers? No.
I can't stress enough that I am not someone that offers. I think you gathered this from what we were talking about earlier, right? I'm not going to complain about something and not offer a solution because that's stupid. Like, who does that? Like, why would you complain about something and not put forward what you think should be done? And I think that what we're already doing is good outside of the poison, which is hunting, the use of protective animals, trapping, and programs used to inspire people to go out and do more hunting. So bounty programs. So we need to open state and national forests to hound hunting. So hound hunting is already allowed in some state forests. Those state forests have far less pest species in them than the ones that don't allow it. And that's because well-trained hunters with well-trained gun dogs who are licensed and registered to do so are very effective at this. So open up the state, all the state forests and all the national parks, even if it's only for a season. So say spring comes around, you run the gun dogs through and you do that. The second one is lifting restrictions on pest controllers. So pest controllers can use traps, but because they have to use traps within sometimes public, like enclosed spaces, so in towns and whatnot, they need special permits to put the animal down. And so that's cost prohibitive and whatnot, and it just doesn't get done. So they need to introduce weaker rules around that. They need to make it easier for these people to use traps. They need to increase the fox bounty. So in Victoria, we have a bounty. It's $50 a fox. If you shoot a fox, you take the scalp into the DPI, you get $50. No, sorry, $10 for a fox, $50 for a dog. But there's nothing on cats. So they need to expand it to cats and then roll it out nationwide. And what that does is incentivizes the 33,000 people in Victoria who have registered licenses for firearms to go out and hunt these animals. And the same for every other state in Australia. And that way you bring the management down. They need to introduce mandatory desexing for cats upon purchase. Like, it has to be done, right? So you don't get a cat if it's not desexed. Simple as that. That way, if it does go feral, it can't breed. And so you stop the cycle of it getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not that hard. These are like really common sense things, right? Like,
Well, you know, especially with cats, cats are, you have feral cats here in Ohio, or in Toledo, I should say. I'm sure in other parts of this country. If you trap a feral cat, you can take it to the local humane society and they will spay or neuter it.
Yep.
And then you can release it back out in the alley or wherever you got it.
Yeah.
Because here for us, they control nuisance things like rats and mice and things like that. So, but the problem is they breed like rabbits.
Yeah, exactly. So in Australia, we can't do that
right here for us.
Yeah, we can't do that simply because we have species you can't find anywhere else in the world, and a lot of them are already on the endangered list. And so this is that conservation part. So everything I just talked about, it's about conservation. It's about removing pest animals from state and national parks. The other problem is primary industry, which means that there are going to be people who make a living off sheep farming, who make a living off cattle and crops and whatnot, and they need these pest species gone. Well, that's where they need to get in protection animals like alpacas to protect flocks, because they are incredibly good at doing that sort of thing, and they use the world round to do this sort of thing. So they need to get them, they need to work trapping programs, and I feel that there should be an introduction of a program through the Sporting Shooters Association where if you sit a course for a fee, then you can get put in touch with farmers who need help during key seasons. So like lambing season comes around, they can take these accredited shooters, put them in contact with those farmers. The shooters can go out there for free. They have hunting property. They can collect the fox bounty or the cat bounty. They can remove these pest animals from those farms. And they also raise money by sitting the course fees for the Parks Department to then continue further programs in conservation. Like, it's not hard.
Yeah, a network of farmers that need these people to come out and take care of the wild animals that are endangering them.
Yep.
It's like a win-win, But
That's
the
it.
poison part is not, because you mentioned that it kills indiscriminately. That means that it also kills those endangered species that everyone's worried about.
They did a study in New Zealand about where the baits were going. So they wanted to know what the kill rate was, right? They actually found in 1,600 baits were dropped in this mountain range. Not one fox took a bait. Almost all of them were taken by quolls, which are native, and that was the target species that they were trying to protect. It's insane that it's still being used.
But as you
So
said,
obviously a lot of money's passed hands
yes.
in order to get
Billions.
Yeah.
this, in order to make this happen with little forward thinking.
I know we went off topic there completely.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think it was. I think it was
his fault. Back to you, Rose.
Okay, well, we have a question from Amigo Gold. When you came to BC, I'm guessing British Columbia, to look for gold with Polly, was it a challenge to find gold in a different part of the world compared to the area where you live and have knowledge of?
Yes. Yeah, it was. It was different. The principles are the same, right? But what happens is when you work an area, you build up a picture in your mind of what you should be searching out. And this is key. So even if you change geological areas by a couple of kilometers, so say you've got one stream here and 20 kilometers over here, there's another stream that produces gold, and you change between the two, there's a good chance that you're going to struggle on the stream that you don't go to regularly. And this comes back down to a principle of your brain and your eyes. So you know what blows us away about good photographs is that a good photograph shows you everything. It shows you the whole scene in one hit. Our eyes don't work like that. That's why they're amazing. Our eyes see about 2% of the overall picture that they can see tack sharp. So when you're reading a book, you can see one, maybe two words clearly, and the rest of them will be blurry. And the way you can test this is to put your fist out in front of you, stare at your fist, and that is about the total amount of what you can see perfectly sharp, and the rest of it will be blurry. Right? So when you go to a creek and you step out on the creek, you're going to see everything, but you're only going to see this much tack sharp. And what your brain is doing is it's rendering the rest of the creek in based off previous experiences. I know there's a tree over there next to the big rock, and that big rock has a piece of vine on there. But in reality, I see this kind of fuzzy gray-green thing over there, and that's it. So when you go to a new place, it takes time for your brain to learn those details because you're only scanning 2% of your overall picture at a time. So once you've learnt one creek, it doesn't work taking that knowledge to the next creek in terms of your visual reference. So when I was in BC, I knew what I was looking for. I was looking for crevices, I was looking for drop-offs, I was looking for big piles of rock, I was looking for, all that sort of stuff. But what was different was the trees were different and the ground was different. Like the rocks were a different color and a different shape and a different texture and everything else. And
it was a lot wetter.
It was a lot wetter, and there was freaking bears and mountain lions, and so that it takes time for you to scan and render all of that stuff in, and that's what made it really difficult. That's a lot of information, a lot of new information to process that previous to that I didn't have, right? Like
right, and then trying to use old knowledge to match those two things up, that just
exactly. Like I know where it should be, but
right.
It looks completely different.
It doesn't look the same here. So is that where it should be? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. That's exactly right.
Could be.
So, I found some good spots, and I think for the whole trip I found like 2 grams or something like that, and I was pretty happy with that because we only went out prospecting. I think we went out 5 times, and I just had my pan, and most of the time I was just walking and looking and taking photos and doing all sorts of stuff. I was pretty happy with my efforts there, and towards the end of it, I was starting to get onto it. Like I was able to walk onto his claim and be like, oh yeah, like right there, that's where it's going to be. You walk up and you find these nice little bits. Most of my gold came at the end of the trip, and yeah, so it just took time to render it in. So anytime you go to a new creek, I think that's a good bit of advice. Anytime you go to the new creek, is really take your time just looking. Don't worry about test panning or anything even. Just go for a walk and note like, oh, there's some big rocks there. Oh, there's a nice line of gravel there. Oh, there's some high bench gravels over there. Like, just take note of things and pay attention, and then go back with your pan and test all of it and see what results you get.
I was trying to find a high spot to look.
Yeah.
Try to get up, high, so I can see what's up and around, giving you a little bit better. Because I do the same thing. I'll go to a new spot, and I won't dig right away. I'll walk around, look, see what I see, try to find me a big boulder to climb up, or get up on a hill or something, just to get a visual of what's around me.
Well, it's like us when we went from Ohio to California. Totally different prospecting.
Totally
different.
Yep. Like it was totally different.
And I'd been the year before, so I kind of had an idea.
Right.
But your first time out there, it's like, where do I go?
Good thing about me, I'm from out west, so
right.
I had a somewhat of an idea, but
of course, we had Two Toes give us a tutorial, and he really explained a lot of stuff to us.
That was my first trip up into the mountains out west. I've been to California, but never up into the mountains like we were.
Beautiful.
So that was a whole new experience and awesome time.
Yeah, California's on the bucket list.
I was going to lead that into why don't you lead that into 3 places that you have not been to yet that you want to go?
Yeah, California for one. I want to go there. I want to go to the Yuba and the Bear River. They're the 2 places that I'm pretty keen on going and visiting, just because of what I've heard about it and what I've read about it. I think that would be definitely one place to do it.
Well, I'll hook you up with Two Toes then. Try and hook up with Two Toes.
You bet.
You'll have a good time.
The other place is Russia. Now, Russian law prevented amateur gold prospecting during the USSR, and they have a lot of gold fields that are completely virgin, like 1800s gold rush style virgin. Now, I've met some prospectors out there who are working patches. Technically now it's still illegal, but the government won't really go after you for it. I've met these guys. They were on a tour of Australia, and they were showing pictures of fist-sized nuggets, and they are all by, the highest sales of GPZ 7000s, the $10,000 mine lab metal detectors in the world are in Russia, and that's why they are pulling out potato-sized chunks left, right, and center. Some of the world's last remaining gold.
That's what I hear about Vietnam also. Vietnam, there's supposed to be
really
a ton of gold there that's never been mined.
Yep.
Supposed to be, I was there, but I was too busy doing other things to be looking for gold.
Oh, come on, man! Like, pull your finger out, get a gold pan.
But yeah, that's what I've heard here recently, that they are finding gold. Of course, I haven't met anybody that's been there to verify that. I'd like to. I imagine it's all over the world except Hawaii.
Yeah, I think there's only a couple of countries that don't have it. But yeah, so that'd be my top 2, and I don't know about the third. I can't think of third. Honestly, I can't think of third. Like,
have you been to Alaska?
No, I have not been to Alaska.
Well, that's where you could make your snowman at.
I could make my snowman. I could go so I'm a pretty keen photographer. I love photography, and I feel like I probably wouldn't even pack a gold pan on that trip, just a camera and snowman building equipment.
I, I flew over Alaska on my way to Vietnam. That was just like the most beautiful, uninhabited place I'd ever seen. The mountains, the snow, just 100%. It was just wow.
I'd seen, like, when I got to BC, it was the same. Like, Paulie's taking me up to this claim, and my eyes are like this big. I was just a camera out the window, like, like constantly. It was unreal. I saw 2 black bears and I didn't get a single. I got one blurry photo of its ass going back in the bush.
Vancouver's a beautiful island.
That's amazing. It's absolutely unreal going in there. The thing that blew me away was how green it was. Like, it's brown over here, guys. It's real brown.
Yeah, there's a price for all that green, all that frickin' rain. I lived actually fairly close to Vancouver Island when I lived in Washington. So
I went down to, I can't remember where it was, somewhere on the coast there, and Paulie points across. He goes, "That's America." I was like, "Ooh." Good times that was.
Obviously, with your large following, you've got, with your Facebook and your YouTube, and the fact that you have mentioned that you do try to spend a lot of time talking with your fans, even though it's very difficult. Have you had any crazy fan experiences?
Do I tell the revenge story or not?
Your definition of crazy.
I think I suppose it's open for interpretation.
Yeah.
No, look, everyone's been super polite. All the legitimate fans, shall we say? Well, everyone's been super polite. Everyone's been really respectful of privacy and whatnot. Some occasionally I've had to just remind people about the volume of messages and comments that I get, because they get, because of my advocacy with PTSD, I get a lot of people coming in seeking advice and whatnot. And I always try and reiterate in my talks and my text posts that I'm not a place to come and get help from. What I'm doing is I'm doing a shared experience and pointing you in the direction that you might want to explore for your own benefit, which is either seek counseling or talk to a friend or whatever it might be. And so sometimes, or quite often, I miss messages that are important, that are very that need a response. And sometimes when I don't see them, I'll get like angry messages afterwards, and I have to just sort of explain that part of it again. Like, I'm dealing with 150 Facebook messages a day. I've got 20,000 comments coming in this week. I can't keep up with all of this. It's not conducive to that. So what I was going to say is, so most people are absolutely fine. I haven't really had any crazy fan experiences. Probably the weirdest one. We'll put a parental advisory warning on this bit. The weirdest one was I got a message from a guy, and it was a video, and I just didn't have time to look at it, and I was just like, whatever, I'll get to it later. This is when the channel was a bit smaller, and eventually later, like that week or something, I clicked on it and I pressed play, and it was a guy and a girl who were in the middle of it, and he was saying, "Don't worry, someone's name, she's with me now." And I was just like, I don't think this was meant for me. And I typed back to him. I just wrote back, I was like, "This wasn't for me, was it?" And he goes, "Nah, bro, my bad." Far out. Yeah, so I got sent that. That was the most out there thing I think I've received from it. But yeah, so nothing too wild. I'm dealing with a lot of minors, right? So we're talking about guys sort of my age to 65. I don't really get any, I haven't, well, I'm pretty glad that I haven't received any nudes or anything of that sort. I know some other YouTubers that do get that sort of stuff all the time from like hardcore fans and whatnot, and it's pretty full on. Some people's inboxes. The other side.
Chris, Al Cooper says, haha, sorry I haven't started stalking you yet.
That's okay. On my personal Facebook page, it says you're probably here to stalk, but you're not a bird, for that exact reason. And then everything's locked up tight. you got to protect yourself. You know,
Oh, yeah.
especially
Now,
you don't know who you're reaching.
how often have you come across someone coming to you on the stream?
What do you mean? Like
saying,
how many?
I know you. I knew I'd see you out here someday.
If I meet someone on the stream, that's what they say to me. It's every time now. It's every time. A lot of my
gas station pumping gas in your car.
Right. Yeah. Any instances.
Yeah, look, I meet fans all the time doing my shopping.
Yeah,
literally just like out and about in town, out of town, in the bush, wherever. I've met people who have been following me for a while. It's pretty full on. I think, which comes back to that whole advocacy thing. A lot of people know me not necessarily even for the gold, but because I've been in the newspaper promoting mental health and whatnot. That a lot of people know me from that, and so it's been a journey. I've touched a very small level of fame, and I cannot even comprehend what it must be like for people who are in Hollywood movies and stuff, or big name singers to just go out and do your shopping. It would be unreal.
Oh, somebody, Maddie just said, what about the psycho who knew where you live?
Oh yeah, that's a story for that was on Nikki's live stream. That story. Yeah, I don't think he was a fan. I think he was just a very mentally ill person. Yeah, I met a guy on a creek, and he ended up knowing where I lived, what car I drove, where I was, all sorts of stuff. But he was also severely schizophrenic, and that sort of explained it for me. He was at home. I found out he was at home. He lived with his mother, isolated in the bush, all that sort of stuff. And whilst I don't think he was a threat, it was just very, very creepy. He was, yeah, because of the knowledge that he had. So yeah, that was not good.
It's always nicer when you choose your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not the friends that know when you've changed your drapes and your underwear.
You know, with you talking about reaching out, so many people reaching out to you, and you dedicating your time to mental health issues and awareness. Have you ever considered maybe bringing some people in to work on your site, and maybe talk with a few more people to get a bigger outreach?
Yeah, I have. I've actually, I've picked up an Instagram manager, and so she triages my inbox, so I am able to get back to messages of high importance. And that's not to say, I must put this out there, that's not to say that if you sent me a message I haven't replied, that your message isn't important. That's not what we're saying. It's just that with what I do, what I talk about, there are some people that really do need like immediate messages back, like, dude, you're going to be okay, you need to call this number, for crisis help or whatever it might be. So that's what we're dealing with on the other end. So it kind of comes over the question of which pan should I buy, or what metal detector should I buy. So she's doing Instagram at the moment. She's doing a fantastic job. We've been able to collaboratively work together on how we want to develop that page and keep communication lines open. That was a big part of it. Facebook is another one that I definitely want to get someone in on. The biggest problem is trust. There's a lot of, because of what we deal with, because of the messages that come across my inbox, I need someone there that I can trust to put the right messages in front of me, and also trust enough to be delicate with these people, to know what to do. And that's super important to me. So
yeah, that's the hardest part too.
Yeah. So yes, but it's complicated.
Yeah, maybe reaching out to, or getting a hold of some colleges to maybe find some college students, or.
Yeah, for sure. I think something like that could work, but then again, I feel like I
The
want
trust
to pull.
issue.
Yeah, it is a trust issue because there's a lot that goes into it. You know, behind the scenes of Vo-Gus prospecting, there is a lot of working parts. You see a video
Mhm.
and it goes for 20 minutes, and that 20 minutes has taken me 2 weeks to develop.
Yep.
Right? Not just editing, not just the storyline development or organizing people. Like I'm working with a cameraman now, just stuff like that. It's not just those things. Behind those scenes is reading hundreds of comments a day. It's about replying to messages that are important, both in terms of mental health, but also prospecting questions, right? I get heaps of questions with that. Then I'm dealing with emails from other things. Like I've got a lot of people trying. I'm very resistant to doing any sort of paid content promotion within my videos. It would really need to be something that fits in perfectly with my channel if I was ever going to do that. And again, this comes back to the money conversation we had earlier. It doesn't interest me as much as what most people will probably think because of the channel. So I'm dealing with like rebutting these offers in a way that doesn't make my channel look like a black no-go zone for people.
Yeah.
So I haven't done one today. I haven't done a single one of them, but it takes a big part of my time replying to emails like that. And it's not just paid sponsorships, but it's like articles that people want written. It's advice that geologists are seeking. It's people like yourself slipping into my DMs and being like, hey, do you want to jump on and do a live stream for a few hours? You know, it's time management. There's a lot more that goes into that 20-minute video than you would think, because this sort of stuff right now is where I pull ideas from, and I get questions about what people want to know, and I'll go and make films about them. So yeah, there's a lot to it, and I need someone I can trust to manage that, and that's hard. That's really hard.
I truly wish you the best, man. I hope that that continues to grow and that you're able to work on that because it's fantastic.
Definitely.
Yeah, oh, for sure, and it will. Like filmmaking for me is such a passion that I don't see this stopping anytime soon.
You might get a message from me to glean some of your knowledge about Filmora, though, Chris. I hope you
Okay.
don't mind.
No, that's fine.
But oh, mind if I drop a link in the room and get
Yeah, let's
maybe
do it.
someone join us with a question or two?
We can definitely do that. But
For
what
the-
I'm going to do is I'm going to go get a bottle of water. And I don't know, because this is everyone watching this. This is the first time I'm using Zoom. And so I'm just going to put my headphones down and go do it. You might hear some funky noises.
All right.
Ignore them. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Flush of a toilet.
And the thing with schedules, though, is one reason why I schedule guests out 3 months in advance, you know?
Right.
It's even something as
It doesn't
simple
always
as
work.
this with no editing. There's quite a bit involved behind the scenes. All right, I'm going to be putting out a Zoom link in. Oops. I copy and pasted something, so I have to grab the link again because
Laurel, that's right. Water.
I almost posted something else.
Spinny breaks, Ray says. Spinny breaks.
Thank you very much, Scuba. I appreciate that, Sonia.
I'm gonna take a potty break too then.
So while we're taking this break, let's take a break and say hi to some people we didn't say hi to earlier, like
Jimstone Judy and Ray Russad.
right, Richard
Scuba
Dave.
Sonia showed up a little late. Scuba Sonia's in here.
Yeah.
There's Colin, Brian, Dennis Hendrick.
Yep. Call in, Brian. Call in. We need you, buddy.
No Zoom forgot your pants, huh? Happy peppery dude. Oh.
I walked in on something there. What are we dapper doing about?
I'm also gonna clip something in the
See, I see everybody.
hopefully this keeps performing well.
Welcome back, Adventures with Goat.
I don't think I have
Seen you in
enough
earlier.
room. You
Oh,
mind?
Brian, come on. You're doing from the chest up, brother. You don't have to have pants on unless you stand up, dude.
Wait, we don't have to have pants on? Hang on.
Oh no, please don't.
Wrong channel, Ed. Wrong channel.
Wrong channel.
Wrong
Yes,
channel.
This is not a hub. It's a YouTube.
Definitely.
Wonder how many people do pantsless Zoom, the Three Nuggeteers say.
I'm a fan of the PJ pants. I'm always in PJ pants on Zoom meetings.
They're always comfortable.
Yeah.
There's also some mobile links in the description below.
Oh, and you guys are at nighttime. It's like afternoon for me. So
Yeah, more like
Oh,
what, 16 hours behind you or something like that.
I know we live in the future. It's great, guys. It gets better. I promise.
If you just tell us lottery numbers, we'd share.
These are closely guarded Australian secrets.
Am I going to be a crypto billionaire tomorrow?
I can't share that knowledge. My people will ostracize me.
While we're as long as nobody's about to come in, Ed, Terry Curie would like to know where you got your name from.
Vo-Gus is the Hungarian, that's the name, Hungarian pronunciation of my last name, which gives me a really good laugh because very occasionally I'll get trolls jumping onto my show and they'll be like, Vo-Gus prospecting, more like bogus prospecting, but that's actually how it's spelled. And I'm like, yes, thank you.
Well, I heard in my ear I didn't butcher your name at the beginning of the show.
You, sir, get a trophy of one now of 3 people who have not butchered my name. You have, in my entire 31 years of life, one every 10 years gets it right. You, sir, trophy.
It's about time.
Done very well.
It's about time.
You just touched on this just now. With the popularity that you've received and have been getting lately, I'm assuming that you also get the opposite.
Oh yeah.
Well, I've seen some of the things that have been said to you, and you know, it's a shame. That
hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. It used to affect me.
Right. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. But it's a shame that people will make assumptions on just the minimal amount of knowledge.
Yeah, the tiny bit of information they have about you and your day and what you're doing, and they make these big accusations. But look, it used to bother me because when you have a small channel and you're getting 50 comments on a new video or 20 comments on a new video, and they're all positive like that every single time you upload a video for all year, and then one day it's the same amount of comments, but there's a guy that just says like, you suck. That hurts because you see it.
It
but
does.
there's something about when 50 people tell you suck that it doesn't affect you as much. It's like, because I've got 500 comments telling me that I'm great, and I've got you 50 people who have no idea what I'm doing and have only ever just got in, and clearly some of them have just been, the accounts have been created 2 days ago, so you're trolls. It doesn't matter. It's weird how it got bigger and it doesn't matter. Like now, it doesn't sting as much because it's not as noticeable. Like people are always going to disagree with what you have to say. It doesn't matter what opinion you have. It doesn't matter about any of that sort of stuff. People are always going to disagree. And it's your job to recognize that ultimately has no bearing on what you're doing. If what you're doing isn't hurting anyone and it's progressing you and others towards the better of yourself and society and whatnot, then you have nothing to worry about. It's that simple.
Yeah, if you notice the channels that get the most success are the ones where the people that are running the channel don't care about what your opinion is about them. They're not there for you and your opinion. You're there. You're here for a specific thing. It's like us. We're here to have people like you come on and talk about, your life experiences in the treasure hunting community,
Or
mostly,
whatever.
or whatever, wherever it goes, right? But that's what we're about, and we get people that don't like what we say or think that we don't know what we're talking about, and that's fine. Yes, it hurts, but the one thing that you do get out of this is you learn to have a thick skin.
Yeah.
You learn to let that stuff just roll off your back. And if you don't, that can be really bad for your
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
letting
It'll
that
take you
in.
down.
Yeah,
It'll
Cause
take
it.
you down.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you let it in, it'll take you down. I've had a lot of comments recently about grizzly dying, and they try and like get in under your skin and whatnot. And if it had happened two years ago, it would have really affected me. But now, like one guy has told me to get over it and get a new dog. He was just a dog. It doesn't matter. I pinned his comment to the top, and I just wrote underneath it, probably not the place to voice that opinion. And I had like 150 people rip into the dude.
Well,
Like, but that was the thing, right? I always have time for someone who's trying to teach me something. So if you come up and you say, "Hey, dude, your sluice was running too fast, too hard, too much angle. Here's why. This is my results." Whatever. Cool. I will listen to you. I will take in every bit of information you give me because that's what it's about. But you come in and you attack me over what I'm doing and how I want to live my life. Well, you have, what was it? Chanel said it beautifully, which was, I think, Coco Chanel. She said, "I don't care what you think about me. I don't think about you at all." Right? And that's the thing, because some people are out there for the reaction, and they're out there to cause you harm, and they're out there for whatever reason, right?
It's basically to build their own ego because they've been able to manipulate you in one form or another, get you to react.
And there was like that guy.
Or
That guy
they're
with
so
Grizzly. That's why I
pathetic
just
they have to do that to build themselves up.
Right.
I was gonna say a few of ours have been really a reach. People have been reaching out, and in the long run, after addressing their comments and saying you were very rude, they end up apologizing and talking about what's really upsetting them, and has changed and gone into a whole different direction completely.
That's super important. I again, I had this guy come onto my channel, and he said, what you're doing is destroying the environment, and you should be locked up, and blah blah blah." He went into this big thing, and I looked at it and I said, like, because it hurt, because I know that I'm not doing that, and I wrote back to him and I said, I took it from the perspective, I am going to tell this guy the facts, the stuff that's not in the video. So I said, we're doing this in a designated prospecting area. The creek that I'm digging in is actually a water ditch from the 1800s. This is not actually like a natural creek. It's a drainage ditch, right? I'm using legal equipment that has been designated that I am allowed to use this. I am moving the legal amount of dirt. I have only removed trees that are invasive species, which I explained in the video, and I also shared him a link of the trees and the parks department's plan to remove those trees from that area. And I explained all this, and he came back with a couple of other things, and then I addressed those points. And then at the end, he went, "Oh, okay." Like, he literally turned around his whole opinion, but he was also open to listening to that. And that's important, because it's got to go both ways. It can't just go one way. And sometimes that falls on deaf ears. Like, I'll do that every time something like that comes up. I'll explain the legalities and the ethics of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And even if that person doesn't like it, someone else who comes in has the same opinion and goes, "Yeah, I agree with that guy," and it clicks on the response and reads it, they might not think the same way. They might change their opinion and go, "Oh, okay, that guy has actually thought out what he's doing and why he's doing it."
You have to remember too that the opinions a lot of these people have, especially the non-minor prospector person, the opinions that they have are what they've been fed through the gold shows.
Right.
Australian gold shows, they're the same way. They show the miners out there just tearing everything up, just
heavy equipment. Then they don't show the reclamation and
all this noise, all this dirt. What they don't show is the importance of what they do afterwards, of the reclamation. And I'm sure you guys have the same laws, right?
We do. Yep.
Everything, put it back the way you got it.
Yep.
Right. So that's what they don't show. That's what they don't see. That's what they don't understand. So that's when you get into those types of arguments, that's probably something you need to remember, that they don't see that. They don't understand that part.
A lot of times after they meet us as a group, they realize it is not what they've seen on TV.
Right.
Yep. 100%. And I started adding that into my videos. So I'm starting to add parts of reclamation into the shows to actually show people to sort of mitigate some of those questions that I'm getting. We just, so when we high bank, we sort of plan it out that as we move down the deposit, the tailings backfill the holes. Now it'll never go back perfect. It just doesn't work like that. But the concept of it is that the big tailings then get covered up with fine tailings, and the big tailings get covered up with fine tailings, and it just walks its way down. And that way it's got soil and rock, and it holds together, and it doesn't erode, and then grasses and trees and stuff grow in on it. Yesterday, I was at a spot where we moved about 8 cubic meters over the course of 3 weeks. And it's a lot of dirt that we put through this high banker. And so we did that process where we worked down the riverbank, and the only thing that's left now is one small hole that's maybe the size of a coffee table, and it's got sharp edges. So yesterday we just took those sharp edges off to make it a ramp, but everything else already has native grasses growing on it, like all over it. It already has all this native grass. Before we started digging there, it was actually just gravel. There wasn't any grass. The way that we laid it back in allows for plants to grow. And that's the stuff that they don't see. So I'm planning a video in the future of going back and visiting spots that I've dug over the last 4 years and showing you what it looked like when I left and what it looks like now. So that you can see, so you can actually see the progress of how it works. So this will look like this in the future. And in the meanwhile, we're removing mercury and lead from the land. Like,
I always encourage that as a YouTuber doing this, that we show the trash that we pull out. Let people see things that are being pulled out of the creek. So I think it's an important thing to show to help our community. Well, not our community, because we do this, but people who stumble on our community and go, "Oh, this is cool. Oh, they do this, they do that. Wow." I didn't know they did that. They went that far. I think because we dig into the earth and are so close to it, when we're doing what we're doing, that we tend to want to take care of it more. That's just
yes.
Okay, I'm done. Back to
Well,
having a YouTube channel where we literally, our channel is pulling trash out of the water. We to ourselves have to show a lot of people that we haul that trash, bring that trash back to a pile, and then someday when we get off our lazy butts, take it to a scrapyard and recycle it. We have to show that as well, because a lot of people think we're leaving that behind.
Yep, 100%. And like you're right, your channel is focusing on pulling out ferrous metals.
Yep.
So there's not really much precious metal that you're going to collect with a magnet. It's very rare you're going to collect anything like that unless you hook a bag or something, I suppose, with a safe in it.
A safe with a Zippo in it. That's about it.
With no notches. Crappy Zippo, right?
But you pull out guns too. You pull out things like that,
And some cool vintage finds, some history.
And one day you may solve a mystery by pulling one of them.
That's a goal.
Yeah. And so like it goes both ways. We've got to, I have been teaching people how to find gold what I feel responsible for is neglecting the side where I show what we do to protect nature. And that's why I started introducing to my videos. If you watch my last 10 videos or so, usually there's a snippet in there. There'll be one scene where I'm like, oh, we're going to backfill the hole, and I'll be pulling the rocks back into the hole. I never used to film that because I thought, oh, it's, you know, no one's going to be interested in it.
Yep.
But once I started getting so many comments about destroying the environment, I was like, oh shit, I need to show these guys what we're actually doing. Because otherwise it's got to go on thinking it is Gold Rush, and we don't care about anything.
Yeah.
That we don't care about what it's actually like to have yeah.
It's
Brain gone.
really,
This is gone. I
education.
forgot my point.
It's following up, and it's clearing up a stigma that's being created in a lot of these YouTube channels, is people thinking that we're just doing this for views, watches. And you really have to educate them to let them know that, you know, for me, it was just me and my best friend deciding to see what would happen when we pulled a magnet out of the water, and then deciding to share that with everybody else. But I guess as you've gotten bigger, or you got those comments, you just have to show them. You just have to, like you said, even if it's just a real quick clip, you just have to show that you've done it. I finished filming a metal detecting video yesterday where we were looking for gold nuggets out with the SDC, and the SDC will punch a pretty deep hole. So we're digging 1 foot deep holes that are, you know, yay big. Yep.
Anything comes along the steps in, it's going to break your ankle. And it's a 2-second clip. I said, don't be a dick, fill your hole in. It takes 10 seconds, like just to kick the dirt back in it, right? Like it took you longer to dig it out than what it will to push it back in. So yeah, it's those sort of little tiny clips, because they are important. It might not be important. It might not be important to you, but the animal that steps in that hole and breaks its leg, it's its life. For the kid that's running around in a park that someone's metal detected in and busts their ankle, it's their football season that they were looking forward to getting back to. For us miners digging high banking holes and stuff, it's the difference between parks coming along and seeing a bank that has been mined, that's got grass and trees and stuff growing on it, or coming in and just seeing a huge pile of rock and a big gaping hole and mud, like, and then petitioning that prospecting shouldn't be allowed in that spot. So for some of us, like myself, it's now my livelihood. So we need to be responsible for protecting that.
So Glenn Ford, I think he wanted to pay you a little bit of a compliment here. He said, Chris and I have watched every of your YouTube, Chris, and it's helped their gold prospecting there in Victoria. Heaps. Can't thank you enough.
That's exactly what it's about. That's exactly what we talked about at the start of the show, which is it was all about taking what I'd learned coaching archery and turning it into gold prospecting, giving people answers to questions that just didn't have answers to online. And I think I've done that now. I think I've got almost 400 videos up on gold prospecting. There's a lot of information on my channel. Like if you want to know something about gold prospecting, just go there and start watching. Yeah, and you'll find stuff, and that's what it's about. So I'm really, really happy, Glenn, that you've I think you've been sending me messages on Facebook. I don't know if I've heard from you in a while. My inbox has got, since Grizzly passed, my inbox has been insane. I cannot even begin to describe how many messages. So if you've been sending me messages I haven't written back, I do apologize, but I'm pretty sure you were down near Ballarat or Bendigo, somewhere like that, and you were working a pug layer, and it had really, really decent, crispy, chunky, coarse, tasty looking bits of gold in it.
Have you had fans send you any gifts? Do you have any favorite gifts that have come from anybody?
Oh yeah. So we opened. I've had some fan mail segments, and then when Grizzly passed, we created Grizzly Mail. So the idea behind it was just a little honor thing for him, that people could send stuff into the channel. It started as his memorial, so we're getting rocks for a memorial garden for him that we're going to put these rocks in and whatnot. And that's how it started, but it's sort of developed into our mail time segment, and people have sent us heaps of stuff, like in terms of rocks, hundreds of rocks. So many rocks, it's so cool. So Grizzly used to love rocks. He'd pick them up and run around with them, and he'd walk up to me with his funny face, and because he's a boxer, he had these big puffy lips, and he'd be like and he kicked this rock out in front of you. I'll be like, you shouldn't be carrying that around, but thank you. Like, so we got heaps of rocks and for all over the world, which is amazing. Like, we got rocks from England and bloody Pakistan and the US and Canada and New Zealand, and just, and all of them came with a story. It was like, oh, I heard about grizzly and I hiked up this hill and we went looking for a rock, or me and my kids went looking for a rock, or one lady sent us a rock that she'd been carrying around with her for 20 years that her dog found, like, and she sent us that. And so, like, they have been really special. And then there's been some of the memorial gifts that were given, including signs and plaques for grizzly, and just bits and pieces like that. And I've also had some super generous subscribers. Like, one dude sent me a solar panel for my hive anchor. He said, he goes, I was sick of you only doing 2-hour sessions before your battery ran out. I want to see you do longer ones. Here's a solar panel.
Wow.
Okay. Guess I'm gonna dig longer. So I've had heaps of stuff like that. I've been very, very blessed, and I'm super appreciative of it, because I know how much money it costs to send anything within or to Australia. Like, just like, some people are sending rocks that are this big and it's costing them $25, like, it's a lot of money for a pebble. I'm really appreciative of that, the time and the effort. And I will say that anyone watching, if you do want to send something into the channel, you can, just like a letter or whatever. That's, if you want to have a bit more correspondence with me and whatnot, or get a message to me, that's probably the way to guarantee that I'll see it. So that's definitely something that you can do. I've got a lot of people that send me letters as opposed to sending me Facebook stuff, because they know that it reaches me.
So let's do another scenario with totally open-ended. You have all the time in the world.
Time machine.
Or a time machine, and you were able to make another channel. You were able to explore something else. Do you have anything else you'd like to look down? Any other avenues you're interested in?
Don't you have another channel or two?
I have 3 other channels.
I thought so.
Yeah, I already have 3. I have a gaming channel. That's probably my next biggest channel. I thoroughly enjoy that.
Channel?
That's the gaming channel. I changed that. Yeah, I changed that slightly. It's more my vlogging channel. So I put experimental videos up there. I put videos where I'm experimenting with techniques in filming and ideas and concepts. And I primarily game on it because I like gaming. It's a bit of fun, and so it hasn't been as active recently because of a whole heap of stuff, like especially since Grizzly passed. Just been busy, so I haven't done as much. But once we move into this next house with better internet, that channel is going to be a much more regular thing.
You need good internet for gaming.
Oh, you need it. You can't game. I can game or I can stream. I can't do both.
Right. I have a gaming addiction. That's why I don't do it anymore. I'm a reformed gameaholic. We have Jason Morris waiting in the waiting room. I presume you're the person he's calling for.
I will finish this question and then we'll get Jason in here and we'll talk.
All right, hold on a little bit, Jason, and we'll be right with you. Don't go away. We'll be right with you.
The last channel is my photography channel. So I've only got a couple of videos on that, and that, again, that's a project that I want to work on. I want to work on documenting my photography because it's like a diary to see kind of how far I've come, the techniques I've learned, all that sort of stuff. And also the same sort of deal, I could never find answers to questions that I wanted when I started photography. So I wanted to share some of that, but that's more of a concept stage channel than it is an actual channel. Right, let's get him in.
Well, he left. He didn't want to stick around. Jason,
come back, Jason.
Here he is. Here he is. Here he is.
We're waiting for that little square to pop up, like, oh, Jason.
Everybody gets quiet. Like,
Jason.
That good audio. It's working on
it. What's going on, man?
We're waiting for his audio to connect.
Sometimes it takes a moment.
It's okay. He's probably doing what I did at the start, trying to figure it all out.
Now you got to unmute.
Yep, now unmute and you should be good.
There you go, Jason. Thanks for calling. Welcome to Tuesday Night Hangout Live.
Uh-oh.
Don't hear you.
Still
We
don't hear
can't
you.
hear you. On your lower left, you have to choose a microphone. Or
Nope. So
not yet.
Okay, there's trying to reconnect.
Okay, there you go. No. Huh.
no.
Huh. It's not letting him in.
It's not letting them talk.
Don't you love technology?
Mm-hmm.
No, not yet. Do you have more than one mic?
Especially when you were around before technology.
Jesse's idea of a laptop was a stone tablet and a chisel.
Right.
Smoke signals.
Now, Jason, you're still in the room. Yeah,
Don't you remember when you beat me over the head with that club and put me in the cave?
I lost you.
Oh,
there
here
you go. There you go, Jason. Now we hear you.
Right. You guys hear me all right?
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry if there's an echo. I got 5 kids here, so it gets a little noisy in my house.
That happens.
Settle down, Pam, or you
Hey.
go to bed.
All done.
Bye.
Mom spoke the Lord.
Anyway,
I will pop it. Then
okay, settle down,
Settle.
boys. Sorry, boys.
I'm worried to know what she's gonna pop.
By then. Get the man.
Well, if
yeah,
you're using stone
Seven.
tablets,
Get the man.
Jesse, stone tablets and a chisel is probably why when you're in Vietnam you had no time to go gold panning. It would have taken forever to type anything out.
Yeah.
It's good to see. It's good to see you got the firmware update for a laptop.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, how's your night going? I've been
Good.
trying to follow, in between everything. Like my advice to anyone that's new to a prospector, don't go out and spend tons of money on all the hubbub and all the fancy stuff. Start off with a pan, like Chris said, Start simple. Don't get into the fad of, oh, this pan's better than this one, that one, whatever. Learn where the gold is. Learn, I don't know how to explain it. Just keep it simple, like you guys said earlier, Don't get into the fads of, oh, well, this loose box is better, this loose box is better. You know what? Best loose box I ever had was this folding sluice I got online. And everyone says, oh, don't use the folding sluice because you lose gold out of it. I'm not out for the every bit of gold. You do that, you're going to drive yourself nuts. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So just let all the commercialization and all that stuff, like you guys were talking about, Discovery Channel, all that, they're out for the gold.
Right.
They got the machines, they're digging holes in the earth. They got to fix it later.
Sure.
They don't, like I said, they don't show that stuff. They don't show the reclamation of the lands and all that stuff. They kind of touched it in one of the seasons of the show, but they didn't really show what they had to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just going out, let's get some gold and dig a hole and leave it.
I think David Turin. I think it was David or I think it was David did
It
a.
was David Turin.
Yeah, he did a whole show on reclamation one season to show, but that was just one show. It's not something that's put in everybody's mind every week when they're out there. They don't talk about it, and that's my problem with them.
Right.
And touching on the gear part of it, there's a thing that I call new gear syndrome. So I wrote an article for a archery magazine many years ago explaining how the new gear, new equipment that you buy gives you a false indication that the gear has increased your skill level. Because what happens is, generally speaking, people will buy into the advertising or something. They will go buy this product. They will then use that product like full on for a little while, maybe a couple of weeks. In that time that they're using that product really hard for a couple of weeks, they're, in terms of archery, they're practicing. In terms of prospecting, they're going out. And therefore, you see net gains. So if you're practicing all the time and you're practicing properly, you'll probably get a little better in that time frame. If prospecting, if you're going out every week, chances, or if you're going out every day of that week, chances are you're going to find something good, or you're going to find something better than your average. And therefore, you'll probably relate that back to the new piece of equipment. But what it really is it's you investing your time into the craft. And so not going out there and immediately buying the best sluice, detector, everything else, learning what you have, like learning the pan or the detector, so that you have to use it as best as you can, will make you better when you do eventually buy something that is considered to be better. In the pre-show, we're talking about Dream Mat, and this is where I'm going to bring this up.
Oh, Dave from Dream Mat's in the room, by the way. He said hi, Vo-Gus.
Hey, Dave. Okay, Dave, I'm gonna give you some stuff to think about.
Listen up, David.
So the Dream Mat's based in principle off the drop riffle sluices that you will see on commercial mines within the Yukon and whatnot. Those and I believe that part of the business, the rubber matting part of the business, was sold off to Dream Mat, and they outsourced that part. This is my understanding of it. They outsourced that part to the matting. Now, Dream Mat has developed into several different styles, and I have used almost all of them, excluding like the really specific things like the blue ball mats and those sort of things. But I've used the micro cell, I've used the mini cell, and I've used the big cell. So the three primary cells that I think most people would end up with in their sluice boxes.
Mm-hmm.
I love the micro cell for cleanups. I have used that pretty religiously for a while. The micro cell is just mint, right? Really good, especially when you couple that matting with the right sluice box with the right water flow running over it. Or that it's just an amazing piece of equipment. The mini cell mat that you get in a 6-inch river sluice here in Australia, if I could get that in a 10-inch wide section and run it down my entire big sized high banker, I might occasionally do that. It is really good. It will suck fine gold out like absolutely no tomorrow, and it's relatively idiot proof. And I've said this on almost every live stream I think I've ever done, which is idiot proofing is someone who has no idea what they're doing can grab the thing, go out to the creek, put it in, and it will probably work for them.
I call it
Sorry?
I said I call it forgiving.
Yeah, forgiving. So yeah, I call it idiot proofing, but yeah, forgiving, idiot proofing.
One and the same.
So, yeah, it means that you don't read the instructions and you will still probably get a pretty good result with it.
Yep.
So that mini cell mat is that stuff, but the big cell is absolutely positively useless on fine gold. And I've got all the evidence, I've got all the data, I've run it over multiple high bankers, multiple different pumps, multiple different lengths, water flows, angles, the lot. The big cell is bad at flower gold like what we get here in Australia, and I don't know why. So bear with me. I've followed the manufacturer's guidelines. I've done that. It didn't work. I've done multiple different versions of my own guidelines and it didn't work. And we're talking about going to a spot that was getting 100 pieces of flower gold. We're talking sub 100 mesh, probably ranging into 200 mesh gold. Small gold, small stuff, very hard to catch. Now when we got those test pans back, we thought, oh, beauty, man, like 150 specs or 100 specs to 150 specs a pan is a couple of grams in a few hours from shoveling.
Right.
When we cleaned out, we ended up with a 0.26, and there's no way that the ground didn't have the gold in it, because we were testing the bank as we went in and the pans were consistent all the way in. So then we tested our tailings, and what we did is we took those tailings. This is the first instance we found that the big mat was bad. We took those tailings, we ran it through a 6-inch river sluice, because it had already been classified by the High Bank of Worth, and we pulled out over a gram of gold from that 6-inch river sluice from our tailings. Now that big mat was set up according to factory standard, what Gold Rat here in Australia recommends. Now, we made adjustments to that, and we tried it over several different setups, several different higher bankers, and we ended up trying to work out how we could really test if it was the matting itself. And so we put it as an extension to a high banker. So we ran this high banker with expanded mesh and moss, and we were getting a pretty good capture rate of about 90% of the flour gold in this spot. We were running sand, literally sand, and we're pulling out 200 mesh, 300 mesh gold. About 90% from the high banker itself. The next sluice was I can't remember how long it was, a 36-inch long river sluice with the big cell dream mat in it. Below that, we ran a river sluice with expanded mesh and moss. So 3 different sluices, primary high banker, dream mat, expanded mesh, and moss river sluice. When we did the clean out, we knew our loss rate already from what that high banker was giving. When we did our clean out, we got almost no gold in the dream mat section of the river sluice for the overrun, for the tailings, but we got heaps of fine gold in that end sluice. It doesn't do its job on fine gold. It just doesn't do it. I don't know why. I've seen it work on big gold. I've seen it, like, you put 50 mesh gold in there, you put 20 mesh gold in there, no worries at all. Catch it all day long. But I guarantee you run the mini cell mat next to the big cell mat on flour gold, and the mini cell will catch way more than what the big cell does. And that's not just one day going out experimenting. That is months of trying to figure out why. So yeah, I would like to know why, if he's got any wise words for us.
Well, I have a
No,
question
I'm
for you
sure
guys.
he'll contact you later.
Yeah, David said that you can get a 10 by 36 mini from him.
Okay.
Would you guys run your guys' mini mat before the large mat? Could you possibly do that? Would that be more effective, or would that affect it? Or
I just put mini mat in. There's no point running that big stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Well,
yeah, I wouldn't.
Here's
Yeah.
here's where
because I got a 6-inch,
here's
got
where
a 6-inch homemade sluice in my car, just a short 24 piece. Just run the mini mat in it then, because
just run mini mat, man. You will not go wrong with mini mat. It is really good. It is really, really good. I found my sweet spot to be about half an inch of water over the top of the mat, if that makes sense. So the highest point of the mat, about half an inch of water over the top. 6-inch or so drop in it. Oh, 6-inch drop, 6-inch sluice, 1 inch drop per. No, Chris, brain into gear. About 8 degrees is what I found. So they suggest 9. I found 8. Is that little bit more effective?
run it under.
Yeah, well, but it depends on your heavies. So I found, like, if you're running really, I only generally have ironstone in my area, and it's a little bit lighter and not as dense as that tin oxide or magnetite that you'll get in a stream. And so if I run it shallower, it seems to work a little bit nicer than what it does if I run it at a steeper angle. But if you're running stuff that has a lot of black sand or tin in it, then the reverse, I put it a little steeper just to get those heavies moving and keeping that vortex going in those cells.
Gotcha, because we got a lot of black sands in Colorado, and that's the issue that I run into. I've got a jar half full of black sands. I don't have a gold cube to run it through, so I'm stuck with a jar of black sands, or sit there and pan it out. And I've got hard. Like I said, yeah. So
yeah, I was gonna say
takes time.
I run the a high banker with the big cells in it, right?
Yeah.
And I run it hot and heavy. I mean,
Yep.
hot water real fast, and I catch that small gold in that big mat. In fact, I catch a lot of my small gold in the lettering, is where
Yeah.
I wind up with it, and in the cups. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but you've Ed, you need to throw the link in. Dave wants to call in.
Jeez. We're already 15 minutes
See
into
that.
overtime.
Go ahead, Ted. Anyways.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to let you guys get other people on. I'm not going to hog the screen here. So I appreciate
All right,
you guys.
thanks for calling
Guys,
in,
have a good night.
Jason.
Calling
Yep.
Jason.
I'll talk to you guys later.
See you, buddy.
Have a good one,
Bye.
man.
Yeah, I use the big cells. And I don't have any problem. I don't have losses like what you're talking.
What size gold are you getting? What this is the question I've got for you then.
Well, how much gold do you think I can get in Ohio?
I don't know. No, but that's what I'm asking.
I
What
saw
size?
someone said they could get had a spot they could get all kinds of gold in Ohio. Where was it? I put it in the chat in Skype, or I mean in here. I don't see it now.
For me, for where we are, I mean, we can, we'd be happy with a gram a day. So
Yeah,
I'd be tickled.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So for me, if I can just run without classifying it, because I run the speed banker, right? And if I can just run that all day long without classifying, and I can come out of there with a gram, I'm happy. But what I've noticed with this mat is places that I've gone to in the past using other stuff, I actually can find more gold. How much more? I haven't scientifically experimented and measured, but I know.
I question this. So this is what I was talking about before about. This is what I was talking about before about New Gear syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
You're finding more gold, but you're saying that you don't have to classify. So are you pumping more dirt through?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah. So but that's your answer, right? So
sure.
Your answer isn't necessarily that it's catching more. It's that that you're actually processing more. Yeah.
Well, more material, correct. But I'm not finding the losses you're talking about.
This is what I'm talking about, right? Like it's not just me trying this out. I've got Mick doing these experiments as well for me. So there's two different people setting up two different high bankers in different combinations, and we're getting losses. And I'm talking, we're getting insane losses from that big cell stuff. And I know it works on a certain size of gold in my area, no issues at all. Like when we take it to places like the Buckland River, which has nice flaky gold, we're talking big bits, right? Like big, like 20 plus mesh for us is big. So we're talking that sort of stuff, and we can run that all day, and out of like 20 or 30 buckets out of a river sluice with that big sale, we might lose 2 or 3 bits, like, completely negligible losses.
Right.
Put that stuff in a high banker, take it to where I mine mustard gold, guaranteed you're going to lose heaps. Just don't get it. Don't understand why.
Okay, we have the man with the answers, the mechanical engineer and inventor of Dream Map with us right now, Chris.
There we go. I've always wanted to talk to this guy.
As soon as he gets his mic unmuted.
You gotta unmute it.
Touch your screen and unmute your mic.
You've been on here before, David.
You can do it, David. Don't let me down now.
It might be too complicated for him. Yeah.
Unmute. Unmute.
I got it now.
There you go.
All right, Chris.
Yo.
Awesome to meet you, mister. I have watched many of your videos and enjoyed them thoroughly.
It's good to hear. I've got to ask, how many of my videos made you cringe?
No, I wish I had the ability to edit and do good videos like yourself, because
I
my videos
agree.
are terrible cell phone videos. I try not to do many videos because of that. And also, I got the bad squeaky voice that no one likes. And so I try to be like the guy behind the fence on Home Improvement and just stay off the screen.
Wilson.
Wilson.
Yeah, no, and actually you got great video and entertainment, so I really like that. Anyways, so cool stuff. So anyways,
I thank you very much for that. First of all, I really appreciate it. It's nice to actually hear that, because I've actually watched quite a lot of your videos, man.
So my videos are like the geek engineer that's got the axe to grind, because I guess I have a little chip on my shoulder, and I admit it, and I try not to, but I've been trying to work that.
I like that. No, here's the thing. You just came in and you just tore yourself apart about how you don't make good videos and all that sort of stuff. But I have watched pretty much everything you've put out on the Dream Mat, and you know why? It's because you're feeding me the information that I actually want to know, and it gives me answers. That's important. That's so important.
True.
Forget video quality. That's not what you're about. You're sharing information. Video quality second to your audio, because you're sharing things that I want to know. So just keep doing it.
I appreciate that. Thanks. And I try to bring it down to the redneck level, not because I'm trying to be a redneck. I am a redneck. So I try to convince people that we can understand difficult principles, but in the country bumpkin way that everybody can kind of get to it.
This is what we were talking about at the start of the show, saying that you need people. It's all good and well to come up with big complicated words and really know your stuff, but if you can't convey that information, then you're not a teacher. You're just some smart ass that's blabbing on about nothing, right? So you're doing a good job. That's perfect. I like that. We're going to call this like Redneck Teaching, or the Redneck Institute of Learning.
Wonderful.
So Albert Einstein said, Albert Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply enough, you don't know it good enough.
Yes.
And so that quote is very true. Now, as far as the big Dream Mat Kitchen Fine Gold, it really, I think, is this environment, what type of gold, how we flow and feed our equipment. Okay, what I mean is we tend to, and this is a problem we all have, we learn how to drive. So we learn how to stop at stop signs. We learn how to accelerate. We learn how to do certain things. And we are convinced within ourselves that this is the way it's done. So then we take a piece of equipment to the crick that's somebody else's or different, and we run it the way we normally drive. And we wonder why it doesn't perform, and it's a piece of crap car, and we throw it, take it to the junkyard or sell it. Every piece of equipment has a sweet spot, and every piece of equipment will only work its best in certain kinds of dirt in areas. The Dream Mat was designed to work in mountain streams. Okay, so what does mountain streams have that other streams don't? High grade, steep grade, lots of flow. And so we got a 4-foot sluice. That's why the mat's 3 foot long. If the mat was meant to flow in a flat slope, it'd only be 2 foot long, so you could plane out your sluice. Okay, so we got plenty of mat, plenty of slope, plenty of flow. And also mountain streams have this type of dirt that is called glacier toil, which means if you were to take a handful of stream sluice material or in the mountains and throw it into the water, it would all settle. There would be no cloud of dirt. It would settle out. So it's been washed clean, glacier toil. Otherwise, the leftover cobble from all the stuff that's washed nice and all the dirt and mud's on the banks. And so the stream bed is really clean, high pH.
I see exactly where you're going.
So you got this material, that material that flows through the sluice very rapidly and fast and doesn't clog it up. So in developing the Dream Mat was to solve how the first Dream Mat came about, was to solve my personal problem where I live, where nobody really comes to visit the prospect because the gold's so bad and hard to catch. But other people have the similar in mountains issue. So high feed rate, a lot of material because there isn't much gold trying to catch the fine gold. And what we have found in our area is it pulls the fine gold out like where I actually prospect, no one else does. There's a club claim called Cherry Creek. Libby Creek up above, you can't buy time on that creek because everybody's on it because that's where the gold's at. And everybody always asks me, why are you down Cherry Creek? There's no gold. And I'm like, I have better days on Cherry Creek than you have on Libby Creek with your equipment. And they're like, why? Well, the equipment works good in that situation. Now, the hope is with the Dream Map that it'll work good in other situations and work good in other environments. And we find people that have found a sweet spot and it works good on fine gold. Now, it's really hard, like yourself, maybe, to drive, example, to shift the gears differently and drive it differently just for that piece of equipment when you got other pieces of equipment surrounding it that are working at a different level of flow, feed rate type of soil. So the hope is, and that's one of the things I tried to do, is I didn't want to, of course, gimmick anybody. And so I offer, which nobody else does, 100% money satisfaction, money back guarantee. So I hope that everybody that buys a mat, if it doesn't just floor them, they send it back and we try again. But what we found is that there's some areas like Ed and Jesse and a lot of other places where they find the fine gold because they have similar environments and they flow the high flow over it. And, so it works. But it's one of those things where in your environment where you're at now, the mini may do a better job of agitating in less flow, flatter pitch, finer gold, holds the material in there longer, processes it longer, and still allows for good active exchange, does a better job of pulling out that material. So it's just, nothing's perfect. I do kind of brag up the Dream Mat. I love the race, so I kind of always challenge people. But I do in a way where at least I say, hey, if you don't love it, if you don't think it's the whiz bang, send it back. You know, because what? I think it's fun. It's fun. I try to keep it fun. Yep.
Okay. So just right at the start of that, when you started talking about the difference in soil composition and whatnot, it clicked in my head what was going on. It's resonance time. It's got to be resonance time. So what you just said there at the end is that the mini cell is more likely to agitate the material as it goes over the mat, which essentially gives the gold more time to work its way to the bottom of that mat and then come in contact with those vortexes and get sucked into those cells. So resonance time from an industrial mining perspective, for those who don't know, is about basically how long something stays in contact with the other thing. And it comes back right to the start of the chat where we talked about friction. So resonance time in a high banker hopper is how long the dirt and mud and clay stays in contact with the water jets and your water system. The longer it stays there, the more gold is liberated from mud and clay and the grooves in rocks and things like that. So the resonance time there is important for liberation. Once it's liberated, It goes through a screening process and the oversize is kicked off. Now, the reason we kick the oversize off is so that the tiny itty bitty gold doesn't have to compete with really big, dense, heavy things like big rocks. So it goes down the mat.
Hard to catch flour amongst gold. It's hard to catch flour amongst boulders.
Mm-hmm. Exactly that. So then we've got resonance time at the top. Then we've screened off so it doesn't have to compete. Now it's in the matting section. Now we design our high bankers with dirt chutes that push the material up the high banker to the very back before it turns around and comes down.
Boil box.
Exactly. So this is the next part of resonance time within your high banker that allows the gold to start settling to the bottom. Because you've got to remember that you've got basically 3 layers in the water flow and the mud flow that goes down your high banker. The top layer is pretty much water. The next layer is sort of like a slurry. And then the bottom's pretty much mud. It's all your heavy, dense things like your ironstone and your black sands and your gold and all that sort of crap. So the more resonance time it has at the top, the more time it has to stratify that material and sink to the bottom. With the big cell Dream Mat, this is all hypothesis for my part, right? My resonance time in the top box is good. I know it's good because the rocks come out clean. Like there's no mud on the rocks that come off the backside of the high banker. Usually that's how you know that you're cleaning your rocks properly. then we know that the screen size is pretty decently good because we are filling up those cells with ironstone and black sands and whatnot, but it's not clogging the whole mat. It's not like coating the whole mat in this stuff, and it's also not nothing. It's not nothing there. That, and you can either confirm or deny this, I'm assuming that friction within those cells plays a big part in keeping the gold down, because you're going to have a protective layer of heavies sitting on top of your gold, which when stuff screams over the top of it, it's less likely to be knocked out, especially if anything like an oversized rock, like a flat rock, gets through your grizzly bars. I would assume in my situation, there just isn't enough resonance time on that matting for that fine gold to come out, because we're dealing in highly mineralized, high salt content, mud and clay. That's what we're dealing with all the time.
A lot of the issues is kites cannot be reached up and grabbed out of the sky. And so we have capture velocity. So your gold is not reaching the bottom of the mat. Now, to slow it down in the large cell dream mat would cause less agitation in the mat and actually cause less active exchange. So you're not going to get good recovery if you're too slow. If you're too high, it's going to get rooster tails and cause problems. And Evil Knievel will jump over the ramp. So it's got to be the right pitch and the right flow. The flow that I see you guys running in your boxes in Australia, the mini mat does better because it holds the material in the cell longer, creates a larger agitation, and you have less material going over the top, water going over the top of the cells. So the gold and everything drops in. A lot of times is what I see in Australia. A lot of people are screening right on the slick plate of the sluices and the streams. The flow is pretty gentle, and they're getting good fine gold, and they're getting good big gold because they have classified, broke it down. This flow is gentle. You got a nice laminar flow going over the cells, and it's like about a 3/4 of an inch deep. And so that allows for not a violent process in gold to drop out, the kite to drop out of the sky. In a high banker, we usually froth it, and what happens is we don't realize when we pump water, we create velocity. Even though we drop it in the back of the box and boil, we shoot out. So we create a velocity flow, like instead of a casual flow out of a hose that is really big, we are spraying and we're creating velocity. And all the tests that I do with Dream Mat, there are two tests. One, the high banker in the shop, in the recirc, in the high velocity, and you get different results. And then the stream with the more moderate laminar flow, and you get different results in each box. And one of the things that we see is that one of the big mistakes of fine gold collection is you dump that fine gold, that test gold especially, even whether it's wet or whatnot, in those high bankers and you're flowing at high velocity, that gold seems to just shoot right out the box. And it seems like when you're running the smaller mats and you're running in a lower flow and you ain't running as much material over the top of that mats or water over the top of the mats, you're getting that gold into the mats. And when the bigger boxes, a lot of times we have too much flow, too much velocity, too much capture velocity, taking the gold out. And unless you're really pumping a high slurry ratio, which means you're like getting a really dense slog of material going over, you're catching gold, but coincidentally. And then so your ratio of what's going out over your tailings is probably going to see some losses because you're not overloading, but you're running at a higher speed, but at least you're going to catch some gold. There's so many dynamics. And we could talk for like 12 hours on dynamics of gold processing in these boxes in different situations. And what the reality is, and I always think is, first and foremost, beyond all the sciences, it's got to be fun. It's got to be funner than fly fishing or hunting. It's got to be funner than all this stuff, because or else we'd be doing that stuff rather than prospecting. Yep. And then at the top of that, the hope is we have a mat that has, in some situation, has solved the problem of catching finer gold, more gold, because that's the next gold rush. That's where it's at. Everybody wishes they get a big nugget. We all want the big nugget, don't you? I want the big ones. And I got actually my first nugget just a little while ago, believe it or not. My first nugget in Montana was because we had the small stuff where we're at. not down south. So the hope is to catch the big gold, but it's all gone. And they stole it all. All the greedy suckers from earlier on took all our fine gold, or big gold. So we got the fine stuff left, but we got lots of it. In the second gold rush is that uber fine gold. So we want to develop systems if we understand how to run them right, and someone shows us and we see it, and it sinks in my head that, oh man, I'm running the stop sign every time I'm going past the white line, or oh, I understand how to do the clutch, it's the gears, and we get that picture in our head on what the sluice is supposed to work like. The hope is that this pattern or this dream mat helps us catch that fine gold a little better, or the hope is a lot better than the other systems, or else there's no merit in it. But it's really the fun. And what's nice about the dream mat, what we're seeing with the really fine gold up in Alberta, in near Edmonton, and some other areas where Paul Jarvis is at, and also over east where Ohio and these guys are at, where they're used to going out and sometimes getting skunked. Because they go out and there's just not a lot of gold in these areas. And the dream mat is helping people catch, if they can understand what the mat's supposed to look like when it operates, and get a picture. If I show enough videos where I get reports, especially back from the mini mat, you're correct. Mini mat does great on the fine gold. Not going to deny that.
I
But
love
even
it
the
in my
bigger mats,
banjo pan. It works great.
and yeah, the micro mat's the banjo pan. Yeah, but the mini mat, you know. But what we're seeing is hopefully seeing people that are what keeps me going is, you know, a lot of people are like, so, well, how many testimonies do you get back for mats? And it's like almost one for every one. And I actually even get a few that people have claimed that it don't work and they want to sell it and all this other stuff. And I go ship it back, and they never do. They keep it anyway, but that's cool. But I'm teasing. But what it is it's these kids, the pocket sleuths. Oh my gosh, Dustin is just love the guy. Goes, Dave, we need to make this pocket sluice for kids. I go, yeah, you're right, because I was a Boy Scout and all this other stuff. And I'm gonna put this challenge out there. Sorry to steal your time, Chris. Not gonna take from you, but anybody that's got a Boy Scout troop that goes prospecting, you give me a call. We're gonna make it right.
Or Girl Scout.
Yeah, amen. I didn't mean to be a male chauvinist, but you know, I am a male, so I probably tend towards that. You know, poor guys, we don't understand anything. We don't got no brains. I'm teasing. My wife tells me this constantly. So, but yeah, you know, to give a kid a sluice, a little sluice, put it in a creek and run dirt over it, and it does a good enough job where those mini cells hold the golden material, and they get to see some gold in their pan rather than panning. Seems to be pretty hard for a kid. That's so exciting. That's more exciting than anything else out there. And that's the hope that correlates to the adults. You know, that kind of activity, and turns on the lights and the light bulb and how it works. And, you know, that fine gold revolution, that's what we want, man. We want to see that the people get excited about the fine gold, because I don't have any big gold in Montana, and I wish I knew where it was in my area. If someone knows, please call me.
I think this is that's exactly what we were talking about at the start. We don't go out. None of us are going out to get rich off gold. None of us have ever done that. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen unless you're willing to sink millions of dollars into equipment and run industrial plants and do all that sort of crap. We're out there to go out and get a $250,000 and have a good time with mates, and then go home and call it a raging success because we found some of that shiny yellow element. Like, that's it. And you're right. That's why I said to you at the start, the mini cell mat for me is idiot proof. You can't muck that thing up. It's very hard to muck up. Well, and it makes a lot more sense now about the big cell and our tests and where we're going wrong. So we'll go back and we'll revisit them.
Yeah, we'll talk sometime on Facebook Messenger. We talk for free. We'll have some fun. We'll maybe get closer to not. By the way, I'm kind of on vacation. I'm on a trip to Seattle, so I'm eating Mexican food and drinking Coronas. So
no, that's not so bad.
Don't mind me. I'm not a raging alcoholic. I'm having 2 beers, and so that's my big party.
They call that breakfast in Australia.
Well, you know what I was telling you, Chris, like with my high banker, I run the speed banker, Now that boils when I shovel into it, the water flow in that is actually going into the back of the box.
The boil box, yeah.
Oh, like that. Yeah.
Everything, yeah. And then everything comes out the front. All my big rocks, everything grows right out the front. But I've got a deep cell V mat underneath the crash box or the ball box where everything breaks up and drops down, and then it rolls out the front. And I mean, I catch tiny gold with it. You know.
Yeah. Well, I'll revisit it because it makes a lot of sense. And it's something I probably skipped over, which was that resonance time. The resonance time thing is really important. And I thought I had it right in the top box. I thought I had it right in the boil box. But looking at it now, I can see the principle that I was missing, which is that velocity is still too fast because of the way that the water's been injected. We'll have to go to that. But while I've got everyone here and paying much attention, I have bad news. I have an appointment I have to get to, and I must go.
A half hour into overtime. We were supposed to be done at 10.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me on the show, guys. I appreciate let me have an interruption.
It was good. I'm really glad I got to speak with you because that just opened my eyes to a few things.
Awesome.
So that's good.
Awesome. I mean, I'm excited too. I feel like I'm talking to a celebrity. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, right before Jesse said you wanted to come in, I told Nikki, if you come on, we'll be on another hour. And
I'm
she's
learning
a great
little.
gal.
I'm learning a little.
But
I'm trying.
I made an exception for you this time, David, because you're so good to our channel. You're the inventor of the map we've been talking about. So, hey.
Ed and Jesse have been following me from the beginning. And they're like family. It's amazing. I mean, it's so cool that I talk to these guys all the time on Facebook, Messenger. And it's just so cool. And I share my days with them all the time. And Ed doesn't respond as much because he works too hard. Jesse, he's retired. He's got more time to give a crap.
At least he's not replying to you via a stone tablet anymore. Maybe some heavy messages.
Messenger pigeon or something.
Right now,
All right, guys. I am literally going to have to go because I've got to go. I've got no choice. People are waiting.
We've taken 2 hours and 41 minutes of your time, a little more than that with pre-show. I greatly appreciate you joining us again on Tuesday Night Hangout Live, Chris. It's been a total pleasure. Say hi to Zoe and the rest of the family.
Mm-hmm.
I will do. Thank you very much for having me on. It's been absolutely fantastic. I like having these conversations. It was a great podcast that said we're going to have the conversation we want to have, not the one you want to hear. And I think we've done that today.
Right.
That's our intent. For sure.
Awesome.
Chris, thanks again.
Yep.
Have a great day and see you around.
You too, guys. You all be safe out there, and we'll talk again real soon.
Have a great day.
Absolutely.
Hey, I hope to meet him on the river too. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would. Oh, great guest tonight, and all of you fabulous people out there, the Flash fam, you're the biggest reason. You are.
Yeah.
We might have great inventors on and great guests like Chris and others, but hey, you guys out there make this my favorite night of the week, I tell you. Next week we're having Bethany, Alaska relic hunter, pardon me. Should be a really good show. And the week after that, mark it on your calendars because we can poke fun at our friend Brian from American Gold Prospectors when we have the crew and captain of the Wild Ranger from Discovery's Bering Sea Gold on. So that should be a really good show. If you want to hang out and post production a little bit, David, you know you're always more than welcome. Everybody out there, I hope you have a great, great week. Get out if you can this coming weekend. Find some shiny, get some creek therapy. May you always have a flash in your pan.
Go ahead, Rose. Yours
You know what
tonight.
he's gonna say next.
That's right, Rose. Because it does happen. Ask Rose, ask Otis. It happens. Maybe one day too, and I hope we do. We'll meet you on the river. Good night, everybody. God bless.
Night, folks.
Hi,
Good
guys.
evening.
Good night. Let's see who
Thank you all very much for joining us tonight.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Mr. Lodak.
Ryan says, look out, ladies, when he's on.
Good night, Nick.
Good night.
4, 3, 2, 1.